Hello, and welcome to the Snoozy Scientist. I'm really glad you made it here tonight. Wherever you're tuning in from, whether wrapped in blankets, watching stars from a window, or letting your mind settle after a long day, this little pocket of quiet has been made just for you. A soft space where science and wonder can sit side by side. Tonight, we're going to drift slowly into one of Earth's strangest and creepiest corners, a place filled with creatures you won't believe exist. These aren't myths or products of imagination. They're living, breathing beings that feel like they stepped out of a dream or perhaps a nightmare. They live in our oceans, our forests, and sometimes even perch quietly in our own backyards. And the more scientists study them, the more disturbing they become. Some glow with ghostly light, others see through darkness with hundreds of alien like eyes. A few never die at all. There are creatures with transparent skin, their organs exposed like something half formed. One breaks its own bones to make weapons, and one, perhaps most unsettling of all, has a mouth full of teeth that rotate inward, dragging its prey deeper with every bite. These are creatures so eerie, so bizarre, that even seasoned scientists hesitate to describe them. And yet, they are real. Not all of them are dangerous. Some seem soft, almost gentle. But look closer, and you'll see that nature doesn't always show her darkest secrets at first glance. I should probably tell you now, I've done my best to make this story as sleepy and soothing as possible. But well, some of these creatures are so strange and fascinating that your mind might drift wide awake with wonder. That's okay, it'll settle again soon enough, a little wiser and a little more amazed. If you're enjoying this peaceful corner of curiosity, it would mean the world to me if you gave this video a gentle like, and maybe subscribed if you'd like more sleepy science stories like this one. And if you'd be so kind, let me know in the comments, where are you winding down from tonight, and what time is it there? I love watching our little bedtime map light up, one dreamer at a time. So now, take a breath, let your shoulders soften, and let's begin. It begins deep below the surface, in a world where sunlight doesn't reach and time seems to move a little differently. The water here is black, cold, and quiet, and if you could hover in this darkness long enough, you might see something drift by, slow, pale, and ancient, almost like it doesn't belong. The goblin shark doesn't swim like other sharks, it glides almost like a ghost. Its body is soft, pinkish gray, and faintly translucent, as if it's been carved out of something halfway between flesh and jelly. You can see the blood vessels beneath the skin, the way its muscles twitch when it moves. It doesn't shimmer or shine like the fish we're used to. It absorbs light, dull and eerie, like something unfinished. It's often called a living fossil, and for good reason. Its lineage traces back around 125 million years, back to the time of the dinosaurs. It has survived ice ages, extinction events, and shifts in the ocean that reshaped the entire planet. And through it all, the goblin shark remained mostly unchanged, like time passed it by without asking for anything in return. But what makes the goblin shark truly unforgettable is its face. Most sharks have jaws that are integrated into their heads, but not this one. The goblin shark's jaws are suspended beneath its skull, like a trap waiting to be triggered. And when it strikes, it doesn't just bite, it launches its jaws outward from its face, fast and sudden, like a spring-loaded weapon. The entire lower portion of its mouth shoots forward in an instant, grabbing prey before they even realize what's happening. The teeth are thin, needle-like, and arranged in eerie, crooked rows. They curve inward, designed not to cut but to catch. Once something enters, it doesn't come back out. The jaws snap shut and retract just as quickly, pulling the captured prey back toward the throat. The speed of this motion is startling. In a creature that moves so slowly, so silently, This sudden violence feels out of place, but that's part of what makes it so effective. In the deep sea, where everything moves in shadows, the goblin shark's surprise attack is deadly. It doesn't chase, it waits, and when the moment comes, it simply unfolds. Its eyes are small and glassy, not made for seeing great distances. It relies more on electroreception, the ability to detect the faint electrical fields given off by other creatures. That means it doesn't need to see you. It can feel that you're there, even in total darkness. Every heartbeat, every flick of muscle, all of it maps out an image in the shark's mind, clear enough to strike. Its long, flattened snout is packed with sensors, and while it might look awkward, even comical, it serves a powerful purpose. That nose is what guides the goblin shark through the silent dark. It doesn't need speed, it just needs patience. Despite its monstrous appearance, it isn't aggressive toward humans. Encounters are extremely rare. Most of what we know comes from deep sea trawlers and remote camera sightings, and even then, the shark often drifts away before we get a good look. The goblin shark doesn't belong in bright, shallow waters. It lives in the twilight zone of the ocean, hundreds, sometimes thousands of meters below the surface. Down there, pressure is intense, food is scarce, and silence is endless. But the goblin shark is perfectly suited for it. Its soft, flabby body isn't built for speed, it's built for stealth. In a world without light, movement is energy, and energy is a precious thing. There's something strangely gentle about the way it moves. Until that moment, it isn't. And even after you've seen it strike, there's still something about it that doesn't quite register. Maybe it's the way its jaw detaches like a mechanism, or how its skin seems too thin to belong to something so old. Or maybe it's the stillness, the ancient kind, like it remembers a version of Earth long before we arrived. It's not a creature designed to frighten us, it just is, alien in form, but deeply real. A biological relic shaped by pressure, time, and shadow. And in a world that's constantly changing, there's something quietly haunting about something that never had to. The next creature doesn't have rotating teeth or a jaw that lunges. It has something far stranger, something that feels like it belongs on another planet. Let's meet it. Beneath the soil, where sunlight never reaches and the air is thick with roots and damp decay, there lives a creature that feels like it wandered in from another world. It doesn't swim through black water or strike with rows of jagged teeth. It digs, it senses. It moves through darkness, not by sight, but by touch, fast, deliberate, and with a face that almost defies description. The star-nosed mole is no larger than a hamster. It has soft, dark brown fur that slicks water and dirt away like velvet. Its eyes are so small, they're almost invisible. They don't help it see, at least not in any way we'd understand. It doesn't need them, not when it has something far more extraordinary. Where you'd expect to find a nose, two small nostrils, maybe a twitching tip, there's something else entirely. A fleshy starburst of 22 pink appendages radiates outward from the mole's snout. These aren't tentacles, not exactly. They're called Eimer's organs, and they're densely packed with nerves. Over 25,000 sensory receptors, all concentrated in an area smaller than a fingertip. This strange, writhing star doesn't just help the mole feel, it helps it see. Not with light, but with pressure, texture, and vibration. Every time the mole touches something with its nose, it's creating a map, a high-resolution, 3D mental image of the world around it, built entirely from touch, and it builds that image fast. The star-nosed mole is the fastest forager in the animal kingdom. It can examine and decide whether to eat an object in just 8 milliseconds. That's faster than a blink, faster than a thought. It's as if its brain and body are operating on a rhythm the rest of nature can't follow. You could place a piece of food in front of it, watch as it sniffs, or rather star touches the object, and it would already be halfway to swallowing it before your brain registers that it moved. It doesn't pause, it doesn't hesitate. It's been called the Ferrari of moles, not for its speed across the ground, but for the way its mind processes the underground world, like a blur of information that it somehow understands instantly. It lives in wetlands, marshes, and soft forest soil, burrowing through mud and moss with ease. Its long, clawed forelimbs scoop the earth aside while the star nose guides it forward. And it's not just limited to dry ground. The star-nosed mole is also semi-aquatic. It swims through waterlogged tunnels and shallow ponds, pushing bubbles from its nose and re-inhaling them like tiny sonar pings to help detect prey underwater. Fish, insects, worms. It senses them all long before it sees anything at all. To us, its nose might look monstrous, like something stitched together by accident, but to the mole, it's perfection. It's not just an adaptation, it's a superpower, and it's so efficient, so precise, that scientists study it to understand how mammals might one day be able to build touch-based sensors for prosthetics or machines. Yet, despite its incredible abilities, the star-nosed mole stays mostly hidden. It's not dangerous. It doesn't strike or sting or sneak into homes. It just works constantly, quietly, deep below our feet. Its world is one of tunnels and shadows, a place where sound is muffled and vision is useless. And in that silent, crowded space, it thrives. It's one thing to see through the dark, it's another to feel it, to read it like braille stretched across every inch of your surroundings. That's what the star-nosed mole does, hundreds of times per second, every hour of every day. Its face may look alien, but in the quiet complexity of its movements, the flickering dance of its sensory rays, there's something almost elegant about it. Something that reminds us that evolution doesn't always choose what's pretty, it chooses what works. And while the mole's world is ruled by nerves and movement, the next creature's world is shaped by something else entirely. Not speed, not sensation, but superstition. In the dense, humid forests of Madagascar, another animal moves through the trees. It doesn't have a star-shaped nose, but it does have something just as strange and far more unsettling. A hand with one impossibly long finger used for tapping on trees and reaching into the unknown. An animal whose name alone is enough to frighten some villagers and whose appearance has been linked with bad omens for generations. Not everything that creeps does so underground. Some things watch from the branches, under the moonlight, in silence, and one of them is coming next. In the damp forests of Madagascar, where moss clings to tree trunks and the air feels heavy with silence, a shape moves slowly through the branches. It's not large, not loud, but the moment you see it, something deep in your brain stirs. Not fear, exactly, not recognition, just that cold, crawling sense that something is watching you and it isn't quite right. The eye doesn't look like it belongs here, or anywhere really. It's a primate, a type of lemur, but it doesn't resemble any of its cousins. Its fur is coarse and dark, more like a shadow than an animal. Its ears are huge and paper thin, constantly twitching like radar dishes, trying to catch a signal. And then there are the eyes, pale, round, and glassy, as if they're reflecting something you can't see. They don't blink much, they just stare, wide and unbroken, glowing faintly in the moonlight. But the most unsettling thing about the eye is its hand. At the end of each slender arm is a set of long skeletal fingers. One of them, the middle one, is impossibly thin, almost like a twig. It doesn't bend quite right. It's double jointed and strangely segmented, with a sharp hooked nail at the tip. It moves in slow, deliberate motions, tapping the surface of tree bark like a bony metronome. That finger is the eye's tool. It taps, listens, and then digs. Inside the trees it searches, listening for the tiny hollows made by insect tunnels. It can hear the slightest difference in the way wood sounds, and once it finds a hollow, it gnaws a small hole with rodent-like teeth and inserts that eerie middle finger inside, wriggling it around until it finds the larva hidden within. Then it hooks the insect and pulls it out like a fisherman with a line. It's called percussive foraging, a technique no other primate uses, and the eye is so good at it that it can feed in near complete darkness. Its world is a rhythm of taps and stillness. Listen, tap, listen again, and when the rhythm is just right, strike. But in Madagascar, the eye is more than just an animal. It's a symbol, and not a comforting one. For generations, local villagers have associated the eye with death and misfortune. Its appearance, its behavior, even its eyes, all of it feeds into something deeper than fear. Eyes are said to be harbingers of bad luck, and in some regions, seeing one is believed to mean that someone in the village will die soon. Because of this, eyes are sometimes killed on sight, despite being shy, nocturnal, and rarely seen at all. Science sees them as rare, remarkable survivors, but in the fading light between folklore and fact, they exist in a much stranger space, something both real and not, flesh and symbol, creature and omen, and perhaps that's part of what makes them so deeply unsettling. The eye doesn't look dangerous. It doesn't bite or chase or attack, but it doesn't need to. Its very presence feels like a question, something left unfinished, something you weren't supposed to see. It's hard to look away once you've seen one, not because it's frightening in a loud, obvious way, but because it lingers in your thoughts, in your eyes, like its silhouette gets printed somewhere deep inside. And then there's the way it moves. Unlike other lemurs that leap gracefully from branch to branch, the eye creeps. Its limbs move carefully, one at a time, like it's always testing the branch before trusting it. It curls its tail behind it, large and bushy, almost too big for its frame. The body says rodent, the hands say spirit, and the eyes, well, they don't say anything. They just keep watching. It's this mismatch, this collision of familiar parts in an unfamiliar shape, that creates something uniquely unsettling. There's nothing else quite like the eye, and maybe that's why it's lasted this long. In a world that often values speed and strength, the eye has survived through silence, shadows, and evolution's stranger decisions. And while it taps through the trees, hunting for things we can't see or hear, something else waits below, on the ground, something heavier, hairier, hungrier. It doesn't climb or creep. It waits in corners and crevices, and when disturbed, it lets out a warning you can hear before you ever see it. And it's much, much bigger. In the dense rainforests of northern South America, where the undergrowth crackles with unseen life, and every branch seems to twitch with motion, something massive moves just above the forest floor. It's not a snake, and it doesn't slither. It walks eight-legged and silent, its weight spread so evenly that its steps barely register until it decides to stop hiding. The Goliath bird-eater doesn't need to make an entrance. Its size does that for it. With a leg span stretching nearly a foot across, it's the largest spider in the world by mass. Bigger than your hand, bigger than your face, big enough that when you first see it, your brain struggles to process it as real. It's not just the length of its legs, but the thickness, solid, hairy limbs that move with an eerie coordination. Despite its name, it doesn't eat birds very often, but it could, and sometimes it does. More commonly, it preys on frogs, insects, lizards, and rodents. It doesn't weave elaborate webs to trap them. It doesn't wait suspended in the air. The Goliath bird-eater is a ground hunter. It relies on stealth, patience, and sheer size to overpower its prey. It stalks through leaf litter, sensing vibrations through the hairs on its legs, then pounces with its massive body, injecting venom with fangs nearly an inch long. The venom isn't deadly to humans, but to smaller animals, it's more than enough. And once the prey is subdued, the spider begins to liquefy it from the inside out, breaking it down into something drinkable. But there's something else that sets this spider apart. It can hiss. When threatened, the Goliath bird eater rubs the bristles on its legs together in a process called stridulation, creating a low, raspy hissing sound. It's not loud, but it's distinct, a warning in the quiet that says stay back. And if that doesn't work, it has another line of defense. The hairs on its abdomen, called urticating hairs, are barbed and coated with irritating compounds. With a quick flick of its back legs, it sends them into the air like tiny daggers. These hairs can get into the eyes, the nose, or skin, and once they do, they itch and burn for days. It's not fatal, but it's memorable. Its body, covered in thick brown hair, almost looks like it's wearing a pelt. Its movements are surprisingly graceful, not the jittery scramble most people expect from spiders, but deliberate, smooth pacing. It feels less like an insect and more like a small animal. And when it raises its front legs in a threat posture, towering over a forest floor already crowded with life, it feels like something from another era, older, quieter, more patient than everything else around it. At night, when the jungle becomes a maze of shadows and the air buzzes with unseen wings, the Goliath bird eater comes alive. It hunts by touch and vibration, feeling the world more than seeing it. And while its eyesight is poor, its sense of presence is acute. It knows when something is near. It knows when something is nervous. And in the stillness of the dark, it knows when to strike. The people who live near these forests don't usually fear it, they respect it. In some communities, it's even eaten, roasted and seasoned, its body full of protein. Its legs crack like shrimp shells, and its abdomen, while soft, is considered a delicacy by a few. But mostly it's left alone, not because it's dangerous, but because it feels like a creature you shouldn't bother. It doesn't chase, it doesn't wander far. It claims a small patch of forest, builds a burrow, and waits, season after season, rain after rain. It molts, growing bigger with each shed of skin, until one day it stops growing altogether, massive still and deeply woven into the rhythm of the forest. And if the spider's presence makes your skin crawl, it's not just because of its size, it's the way it moves, like it's too calm, like it knows the forest better than you do. Just beyond the brush, clinging to bark, another master of disguise waits. It doesn't hiss or strike, it doesn't even move much. Instead, it becomes something else entirely, a leaf, a shadow, an illusion, and when its eyes open, you realize it was there the whole time, watching, blending in with a world that wasn't made for eyes like ours. In the tangled forests of Madagascar, where vines twist through ancient trees and sunlight filters down in fragments, there's something clinging silently to the bark. You could walk right past it, maybe you already have, and never realize it was watching you. Its shape is that of a shriveled leaf, dried and forgotten. Its edges are jagged and cracked. Its skin is mottled in earthy browns, reds, and soft grays, like bark left too long in the sun. Even up close, it doesn't seem alive at first. But then, it blinks. The satanic leaf-tailed gecko has a name that feels dramatic, even theatrical, but once you see it, it feels entirely earned. Its eyes are sharp and staring, with vertical slits and a golden shimmer that reflect the light like glass. Its tail fans out behind it in a perfect imitation of a dead leaf, complete with fake veins, rot spots, and even tears along the edge. Its entire body is an illusion, not just hiding from predators, but becoming part of the forest itself. It doesn't move unless it has to. It relies on stillness as much as shape. When perched on a branch or pressed against a trunk, the satanic leaf-tailed gecko becomes almost invisible. Its outline disappears into the background. The shadows work in its favor, and to anything passing by, it's just another piece of forest debris, lifeless and meaningless. But it's very much alive. It's nocturnal, spending its nights hunting insects, spiders, and small invertebrates. It moves with careful precision, using its wide, sticky toes to grip the rough surfaces of bark and moss. Its legs are splayed to the sides, giving it a low, flat posture that helps keep its profile hidden. Even when it walks, it shifts its body in slow, pulsing motions, like a leaf rustling in the breeze, rather than an animal on the move. And when it does open its mouth, something it rarely does, the illusion drops completely. The inside is bright red or yellow, a flash of color meant to startle anything that dares come too close. It's a sudden break from the camouflage, a warning that this isn't just a leaf with eyes, it's a creature with teeth ready to defend itself. Its body, while small, is dense with detail. The skin has a soft, textured look like the surface of a dried mushroom. Its head is slightly flattened, with two horn-like projections above the eyes that give it a devilish silhouette. It's not big, usually no longer than a human hand, but its presence lingers in a way that feels much larger. There's something ancient about it, something that makes you wonder if this animal belongs more in a story than in a science book. It's not just the way it hides, it's the way it pretends. It doesn't run from danger, it becomes something unimportant. It doesn't confront the world directly, it survives by being overlooked. And it's not alone. Madagascar is filled with creatures that have evolved to vanish, to trick the eye, and survive through misdirection. But the satanic leaf-tailed gecko is a standout. Its camouflage isn't just effective, it's beautiful in a strange, haunting way, like something designed not just by nature, but by imagination. By day, it rests in silence, pressed flat against bark, tail curled, eyes narrowed. Sometimes it tucks its legs in and lets its body droop, so that it really does look like a curled dead leaf hanging off the tree. It can hold this pose for hours, unmoving, even if you stand just inches away. At night, it becomes more active, but not more visible. It's a shadow in the moonlight, slipping across trunks and branches, pausing between movements to blend back into the background. It doesn't hunt with speed or power. It waits, it watches, and then it strikes. It's not dangerous to humans, of course, but it doesn't need to be. Its power lies in what it makes you feel, the discomfort of realizing you've been looking right at something and didn't see it, the quiet thrill of spotting something that wasn't meant to be found. And while this creature vanishes into bark and leaf, the next one takes an opposite approach. It doesn't hide, it doesn't pretend, it latches on, bold, ancient, and unmistakable, with a circular mouth that seems to come from another age. It doesn't disguise its threat, it shows it proudly, and once it locks on, it doesn't let go. Beneath the surface of murky freshwater rivers and cold coastal seas, there's a creature that looks like it swam straight out of a forgotten nightmare. It doesn't have jaws, it doesn't have bones. What it does have is a mouth round, toothy, and always hungry. A perfect circle lined with concentric rows of tiny hooked teeth, like a spinning saw made of flesh. This is the lamprey. At first glance, it doesn't even seem real. Its body is long and boneless, smooth like an eel's, but lacking the graceful motion. There's no elegance here, only purpose. Its skin is slimy, often mottled in dull grays, browns, or olive greens, allowing it to vanish against the riverbed or hug the contours of submerged rocks unnoticed. Its eyes are cold and flat, reflecting just enough light to catch your attention, but never enough to show emotion. And then there's the mouth. It doesn't close like a typical mouth. It suctions, it clamps, it drills. The lamprey attaches itself to its host like a biological horror device. Its teeth don't bite as much as grind. Once locked on, the circular maw slowly wraps away skin, breaking through scales and muscle with a sandpaper like tongue until it hits blood. Then it feeds. It doesn't kill outright. Instead, it latches on and stays, sometimes for days, drinking blood and bodily fluids while the host continues to swim, unaware or unable to escape. The lamprey has anticoagulants in its saliva that keep the blood flowing freely, ensuring a steady meal. Many hosts survive the encounter, some do not. This parasite has no mercy in its design. It's a perfect combination of simplicity and brutality. No limbs, no jaws, no complex nervous system required. Just a mouth, a tube-shaped body, and an ancient instinct. Lampreys are what scientists call living fossils. Their kind has existed for over 360 million years, swimming through the prehistoric oceans before the first dinosaurs ever walked the land. Back then, they fed on armored fish. Now, they still haunt lakes and rivers around the world, from the Great Lakes of North America to the streams of Northern Europe. And in some places, they've become invaders, thriving in ecosystems where nothing is prepared for them. Fishermen often dread finding lampreys stuck to their catches, especially in areas where the creatures are not native. One lamprey may not destroy a population, but many, dozens, hundreds can wreak havoc. They leave behind wounded fish with open sores, infected tissues, and damaged organs. It's not just the feeding that causes harm, it's the slow, lingering damage of parasitism. But the lamprey is not all villain. In some parts of the world, particularly in Europe, it's considered a delicacy, grilled, stewed, or baked in pies. Medieval kings dined on them. Romans wrote about them. They've been both feared and feasted upon for centuries. And despite their reputation, lampreys have become valuable in scientific research. Their simple nervous systems help us understand how vertebrate brains evolved. Their ancient lineage provides clues about the earliest ancestors of all animals with backbones. In studying them, we're not just learning about a creepy predator, we're looking into our own deep biological past. But the creepiness doesn't stop at their feeding habits. During breeding season, lampreys migrate upstream. Much like salmon, they don't eat during this time. Instead, they gather in clusters, twisting and writhing around one another as they build shallow nests from gravel. Once the eggs are laid and fertilized, the adults die, completing a cycle that's played out since before the continents looked anything like they do today. Their babies, called imacocetes, don't resemble their terrifying parents at first. They're tiny, eyeless, worm-like larvae that burrow into the mud and filter feed on microscopic debris for years before undergoing a full transformation. When they finally emerge, larger, sleeker, and equipped with that infamous mouth, they begin their parasitic phase. It's a life cycle that's both simple and disturbing, and perhaps what makes the lamprey so unsettling is how little effort it takes to dominate its world. It doesn't need claws, it doesn't chase, it doesn't roar, it just waits, finds, and feeds. But while the lamprey thrives through attachment and secrecy, the next creature lurks in a different kind of stillness. It doesn't cling to life forms, it sits at the bottom of the ocean, quiet and armored like a deep-sea tank, watching the world pass it by with an eerie calm that's even harder to explain. Beneath the crushing weight of the ocean, where the sunlight can't reach and the pressure would flatten most creatures, something unexpected stirs on the seafloor. It doesn't chase, it doesn't flash with color or light, it waits perfectly still. It could be mistaken for a relic or a discarded artifact, but then it moves, What you're looking at is the giant isopod. Imagine a pill bug, the kind you might have played with in a garden as a child. Now stretch it out, give it armor, and make it the size of a football. That's the giant isopod, a deep sea scavenger that looks like it rolled off an alien spacecraft and sank quietly into the abyss. Its body is encased in a segmented shell, pale and pinkish white, often dusted with silt from years spent dragging along the seafloor. Its overlapping plates give it the look of a miniature tank, bulky, rugged, and built to survive. When threatened, it can curl into a tight ball, just like its land dwelling cousins, except this ball weighs several pounds and has 14 legs tucked neatly underneath. Its legs are jointed and spindly, some used for crawling, others for holding food close while it feeds. The eyes are compound and blank, like two gray marbles set high on its head, giving it a wide view of the empty, dark world around it. But here, where sight is almost useless, the giant isopod relies more on touch and smell, detecting vibrations and the faintest chemical traces in the water. It doesn't need speed, it doesn't need flash, it simply endures. Living at depths of 500 to over 7,000 feet, the giant isopod has adapted to one of Earth's harshest environments. Down here, food is scarce. A meal might be a fish carcass that sinks from the surface, or the remains of a whale that took days to fall. When food appears, it doesn't nibble, it devours. It's capable of gorging itself to the point where its body distends and bloats like a balloon. After such a feast, it might not eat again for weeks, even months. In fact, in captivity, some giant isopods have gone over 5 years without a single meal, just drifting in a glass tank, still and silent. That stillness is part of what makes it so eerie. It rarely moves unless it has to. It doesn't chase prey. It doesn't compete. It simply waits. The longer you watch it, the more unnatural it feels, not because it's doing something strange, but because it does so little. Its stillness is almost patient, like it's waiting for the world to come undone. And then there's the mouth, hidden beneath a flat, armored face. It doesn't gape or snap. It opens slowly, methodically. Rows of mouth parts work together to tear and crush whatever it finds. Squid, sponges, fallen crabs, even other isopods if desperation calls. This isn't a predator of speed, but one of certainty. Once it begins feeding, it doesn't stop until there's nothing left. There's a certain horror in how perfect it is. Not flashy, not fast, but perfectly suited to where it lives and what it does. Its design hasn't changed in millions of years. Evolution didn't need to update it. That alone makes it feel uncanny, like a piece of a different timeline that just kept going without us. And yet, despite its odd appearance and ancient lineage, the giant isopod doesn't inspire fear in the traditional sense. It doesn't hunt humans. It doesn't chase ships, but it unsettles in a quieter way, a reminder that life doesn't need to look familiar to thrive. Some creatures don't need eyes that glisten or behaviors we understand. They just need time, and this one has had plenty. But the ocean floor isn't the only place where nature hides unsettling secrets. Not every horror lives in the deep. Some climb into the bodies of others, not to kill, but to become something else entirely. There's a parasite out there that doesn't just feed on its host, it becomes part of it, fusing with its victim in a way that defies logic and makes your skin crawl. In the quiet stillness of shallow tropical waters, a silver fish glides effortlessly through the current, its scales catching the dappled light. It opens its mouth to breathe, revealing rows of gills and something else, something that shouldn't be there. Where a tongue ought to be, there's a creature alive, gripping, staring, not a part of the fish, a parasite, one that has replaced the tongue entirely and now lives where the fish's own organ used to be. Meet the tongue-eating louse, one of nature's most disturbing innovations. Unlike most parasites that hide inside tissue or feed from the outside, this one goes further. It enters, takes over, and becomes part of the host's body in the most literal way imaginable. It begins when a tiny juvenile louse swims into the mouth of a fish, typically a snapper or similar species. It's not big, just a speck with legs and claws, but it knows exactly what it's looking for: the soft, fleshy tongue of its new home. With hooked legs, it latches on beneath the tongue and starts feeding on the blood that runs through it. Slowly, steadily, it drains the tongue's life away. As the fish continues about its day, feeding, swimming, unaware, its tongue begins to shrivel. It loses color, then function, until finally it dies and falls off. But by then, the louse has already taken its place. It doesn't just sit in the empty space, it grips onto the stub left behind, anchoring itself like a twisted prosthetic. And somehow, the fish doesn't die. In fact, it keeps living, eating, swimming, breathing, as if nothing is wrong, because the louse doesn't kill it. It becomes its tongue. With jointed legs splayed outward and small pincers ready to grasp food, the parasite mimics the function of the original tongue. It moves as the fish moves. When the fish eats, the louse helps push food down its throat. It has inserted itself so deeply into the host's life that the two now function as one. It's the only known parasite in the world that fully replaces a functional body part, not just invading, but integrating. What makes the tongue-eating louse even more unnerving is how ordinary it looks at first glance. It resembles a flattened pill bug, its segmented shell a dull gray or beige. No teeth, no fangs, no glowing eyes, just a stubby, clawed insect hiding inside a mouth like it belongs there. Some fish carry more than one. Occasionally, a female louse will occupy the tongue while a male lurks behind the gills, waiting to mate. Their entire life cycle can unfold inside one single fish. Birth, growth, reproduction, all inside a living, breathing host. In some cases, the fish survives just fine. In others, it begins to waste away. Scientists believe this depends on how much the louse feeds and whether it shares space with others. If the balance tips too far, the fish can slowly decline, its own body drained by the invader it relies on to eat. Fishermen have caught snappers, opened their mouths, and recoiled in shock at the small creature staring back. It doesn't lunge, it doesn't run, it simply stares, like it knows it's not meant to be there, but has no intention of leaving. And this parasite isn't rare. Species of tongue-eating louse have been found all over the world, in the Atlantic, the Pacific, and even the Gulf of California. Wherever the right fish live, they follow. It raises strange questions. If something can live inside another, become a body part, and function there for years, is it still a parasite, or has it become something else entirely, something closer to a dark kind of symbiosis? Nature doesn't draw sharp lines between helper and thief, between host and invader, and in the case of the tongue-eating louse, the boundary is dissolved completely. It's not just sharing space, it is the space. But even this unsettling relationship pales in comparison to the creatures lurking deeper down, beings that dangle lights from their heads like lanterns in the abyss, whose jaws gape impossibly wide, and whose courtship ends in consumption. In the cold, crushing dark, one species has turned its body into both bait and trap, and it doesn't just hunt the weak, it devours its mate. Far beneath the surface of the ocean, in a world of eternal night and pressure that would crush a human like a tin can, drifts a creature so haunting it feels like it was stitched together in a dream. One of those cold, dark dreams where nothing makes sense and everything watches you back. This is the home of the deep sea anglerfish. And down here, the rules of biology bend into something far more eerie. At first glance, the anglerfish doesn't look real. Its body is lumpy and misshapen, like it never finished growing, or like evolution gave up halfway. Its mouth stretches unnaturally wide, packed with needle like teeth that curve inward, making escape nearly impossible for anything caught in their grasp. The skin is leathery, often mottled, a texture that suggests rot more than life. But its most disturbing feature isn't the mouth or the body, it's what grows from its forehead. A long, thin spine juts out over its head like a crooked antenna, ending in a fleshy bulb that pulses with ghostly light. This is its lure, a bioluminescent beacon created by bacteria that live inside the bulb. In the abyss where sunlight never reaches, light becomes a deadly invitation. Small fish, curious and drawn by instinct, swim toward it, mistaking it for food or shelter. They never see the teeth until it's far too late. The anglerfish doesn't need to chase, it waits, still as a stone, and when the prey floats within range, the jaw unhinges, the entire head expands like a trapdoor snapping open, and in an instant, the victim vanishes. Digestion begins while the lure continues to glow, ready for the next mistake. But the horror of the anglerfish doesn't end with how it eats. It's how it loves, if you can call it that. In the deep sea, encounters between males and females are rare. Vast darkness stretches between them. So evolution made a deal, one that sounds more like science fiction than science. The female anglerfish is large, fearsome, and self sufficient. The male, however, is tiny. Some are barely a fraction of the female's size. They have no lure, no giant teeth, no way to survive long on their own. Their only mission is to find a female, and when they do, what happens next is equal parts strange and disturbing. The male bites her, but it's not an attack, it's courtship. Once his teeth break her skin, his body begins to fuse with hers. Slowly, his blood vessels merge with hers. His skin dissolves. His eyes fade. Eventually, all that's left is a small nub attached to her side, a pair of gonads, and a brainstem, no longer independent, but feeding off her bloodstream. He gives up everything: mobility, identity, even the ability to think, for a chance to reproduce. Sometimes, females have more than one. Scientists have found female anglerfish with half a dozen tiny males attached, like parasitic earrings or strange growths. They dangle from her body, dormant until she's ready to spawn, and when the moment comes, they deliver. This grotesque arrangement ensures survival in a realm where finding a mate might otherwise take years. But it also raises an unsettling thought. In this world of crushing cold and black water, intimacy means absorption. The very act of love is one of consumption. And even outside reproduction, the anglerfish's biology continues to unsettle. It can expand its body to swallow prey nearly as large as itself. It floats with motionless grace, conserving energy in a world where meals are rare. Its glassy eyes reflect no light, making it feel less like a creature and more like a moving fossil, something ancient left behind from a forgotten age. And still, the sea gets stranger, because further along the ocean floor, crawling slowly like armored shadows, are creatures that resemble prehistoric beetles, but on a monstrous scale. Their legs click against the sediment, their shells reflect nothing. They look like something that shouldn't exist anymore, but they do. Hidden in the folds of the ocean's bottom, waiting in the cold, untouched by time. Beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, just off the coasts of California and Baja California, there lurks a fish that's not very big, but don't let its size fool you. This creature, the sarcastic fringehead, may be only a few inches long, but when provoked, it turns into one of the most unhinged and terrifying underwater fighters on Earth. At first glance, the sarcastic fringehead doesn't look like much. It hides in crevices, discarded bottles, empty shells, and whatever else it can squeeze into. It has a slender, mottled body and fins that ripple like torn fabric. It might look almost plain compared to the creatures that came before, but then something strange happens. Approach it too closely, and the fish undergoes a transformation so jarring it feels like a glitch in nature. Its mouth unhinges dramatically, and the entire head becomes a massive, wide, gaping display. Two enormous jaws fan out sideways, exposing the inside like a neon sign flashing back off. It's not just wide, it's flat and colorful, stretching to nearly the width of its own body. The entire performance is sudden, absurd, and absolutely terrifying. This display isn't just for show, it's a weapon, a warning, a dare. The sarcastic fringehead is famously territorial. It will fight anything that dares encroach on its chosen hiding place. And when two of them meet, especially two males, the encounter looks more like an alien ritual than a simple scrap. They don't just bite or charge, they lunge at each other with their mouths fully extended, pressing those horrifying jaws together like underwater sumo wrestlers. It's not just about biting, it's a clash of mouths. Whoever has the wider, more dominant gape usually wins. The loser slinks away, defeated not by wounds but by humiliation. What makes the fringe head so unnerving is its suddenness. One moment it's tucked away, barely moving. The next it's all motion and fury, with jaws exploding outward in a display that seems too large for its body. It's like watching a quiet book on a shelf suddenly sprout wings and scream at you. Scientists believe this extreme mouth expansion evolved specifically for these territorial battles. It's a way to measure dominance without resorting to deadly violence. But for anyone watching it for the first time, especially up close, it looks more like a horror show than a courtship ritual or dispute resolution. The mouth isn't just wide, it's muscular, veined, and packed with sharp teeth. You can see straight down its gullet, as if the fish is trying to swallow the ocean whole. Despite the name, the sarcastic fringehead has nothing to do with sarcasm. The name sarcastic is believed to come from the Greek word sarkasmos, meaning to tear flesh, though some believe the name is simply an old term for its aggressive personality. Either way, it fits. This fish doesn't play nice, and yet, for all its ferocity, the sarcastic fringehead has no venom. It doesn't hunt large prey or go after humans. Its primary obsession is space real estate. A good hiding hole is more important than food, more important than peace. It guards its home with the energy of a dragon sitting on treasure, flaring its jaws at crabs, octopuses, divers, or anything else that might disturb its solitude. Its chosen homes are often odd: a soda can, a PVC pipe, or a glass bottle. The ocean is filled with trash, and while that's a tragedy in many ways, the fringehead doesn't seem to mind. It adapts. If a human discards it, the fringehead will claim it, then defend it with everything it has. Even its coloring is deceptive. Most fringeheads are brown or olive, with darker blotches and faint stripes. But when that jaw opens, hidden colors explode into view: bright yellows, blues, or reds, depending on the individual. The mouth isn't just a weapon, it's a hidden banner, a flare of warning from a world that usually whispers. It lives between 10 and 200 feet deep, though some have been spotted even farther down. It lurks near rocky reefs and sandy bottoms, always on the lookout for invaders. Even photographers and scientists have been charged by angry fringeheads, startled by how fearless and quick this little monster can be. And still, the ocean gets stranger. 'Cause just beyond the territories of the sarcastic fringehead, sometimes hiding beneath rocks, Sometimes pressed into crevices where light can't reach, lurks a different kind of intelligence, one with arms that stretch like shadows and minds that seem almost too clever for comfort. Beneath the cool, shadowy waters of the North Pacific, a creature glides silently across the ocean floor, its body rippling and reshaping as if made of liquid thought. This isn't a monster from a dream or a mythical being conjured by ancient sailors. It's real, and it's one of the most intelligent, mysterious, and alien like animals on our planet. The giant Pacific octopus is the largest known species of octopus, and it's every bit as impressive as the name suggests. Its arms can stretch up to 14 feet long, and when fully extended, its body can span the size of a small car. Yet, for all that size, it's astonishingly flexible. It has no bones, just soft, muscular tissue, allowing it to squeeze through holes no bigger than a coin. If its beak fits, the rest of it can follow. But what truly sets the giant Pacific octopus apart isn't just its size, it's the mind behind those 8 curling limbs. This octopus doesn't just react to the world, it studies it, learns from it, outsmarts it. In laboratory settings, giant Pacific octopuses have been known to solve puzzles, recognize individual humans, and even open child-proof jars to get at food inside. Some have figured out how to unscrew lids, slide locks, and even escape their tanks entirely, slipping out at night to grab a snack from a neighboring tank, then returning before anyone notices. Their intelligence is eerie, not just because it's unexpected, but because it's so different. The giant Pacific octopus has a central brain, yes, but it also has a mini brain in each of its arms. Each limb can taste, feel, and even act semi independently, moving with a purpose that seems to come from somewhere else. It's as if the creature isn't thinking in one place, but in 9 places at once. The skin of the giant Pacific octopus is a shifting canvas. Tiny pigment cells called chromatophores allow it to change color and texture instantly, blending into its surroundings so completely that even a passing diver might not realize it's there. One moment, it's deep red, the next, mottled gray. Then suddenly, it looks like coral or sand or the dark waving tendrils of seaweed. This camouflage is more than survival, it's art. It can puff itself up to look larger, flatten itself to slip beneath a rock, or ripple its skin into ridges and horns to match the textures around it. Watching it disappear is like watching a magic trick performed by something that never learned to doubt what's possible. But perhaps the most haunting thing about the giant Pacific octopus is its eyes. They are large, unblinking, and uncannily expressive. Unlike fish or crabs, which often seem vacant or automatic, the gaze of an octopus feels intentional, curious, aware. Divers have reported locking eyes with one and feeling somehow watched, not just seen, but evaluated. Despite all this intelligence, the life of a giant Pacific octopus is brief. Most live only 3 to 5 years. The end of their life is a slow, graceful fade. After mating, the female will lay thousands of eggs and then spend the rest of her days tending them, never leaving their side, not even to eat. She guards them, cleans them, aerates them with gentle streams of water, and watches over them until they hatch. Then, quietly, she dies. It's a poetic end to a life spent in solitude and stealth. And while we've learned a lot about this remarkable animal, there is still so much we don't understand. How it thinks, how it learns, why its brain evolved the way it did. Scientists have only scratched the surface, and every discovery raises more questions than answers. And yet, even with all we've seen, the shape-shifting, the problem-solving, the escape artistry, the giant Pacific octopus is not the strangest thing that lives in the deep, because drifting below it, glowing in the cold darkness, are creatures that seem stitched together from nightmares, not soft or clever, but sharp and ancient. Creatures with eyes like lanterns and mouths full of needles. Creatures that can't think the way an octopus can, but don't need to. Their instincts are older than memory, and they hunt with a kind of mechanical horror that feels inevitable. In the quiet corners of Central Africa, hidden among mossy rocks and shaded pools, lives a creature that sounds more like a comic book invention than something born of nature. It's called the hairy frog, though some scientists, with a touch of dark humor, have nicknamed it the Wolverine frog. And once you learn what it can do, you'll understand why. At first glance, it doesn't seem like anything to fear. It's a medium sized frog, no bigger than your palm, with a stubby face and dull coloring that blends into the forest floor. But look closer, especially during breeding season, and you'll notice something strange. Males grow thin strands of hair like skin along their flanks and thighs. They're not true hairs, but rather skin extensions filled with blood vessels, thought to help the frog absorb more oxygen through its skin while guarding its eggs. But what gives the hairy frog its haunting reputation isn't its furry look, it's what it does when danger creeps too close. Most animals flee when threatened. Some puff up or flash colors. The hairy frog, instead, does something truly bizarre. It breaks its own bones. With a jolt of muscle contraction, it snaps the bones in its toes, forcing them through the skin to form sharp, curved claws. Not claws made of keratin like a cat's, but sharpened bone, weaponized fragments of its own skeleton. There's no sheathing mechanism like you'd see in a big predator. No elegance, just raw, desperate force. The bones pierce through muscle and flesh, turning soft, damp digits into savage tools for slashing and defense. It's as if the frog becomes something else entirely, like it sheds the rules of its body to become a weapon. Scientists still aren't sure exactly how this process works or how the frog heals afterward. Most believe the bones retract once the danger passes, sliding back under the skin as the tissue begins to mend. But the whole process remains shrouded in mystery, especially because it's so rare to witness in the wild. It's the kind of behavior you might only catch once, at the edge of a flashlight beam, deep in the jungle after dark. What's so haunting about the hairy frog is how unnatural it feels. Frogs aren't supposed to do this. Bones aren't supposed to break on purpose. But evolution isn't about rules, it's about survival. And in a dense forest where snakes, birds, and mammals lurk at every turn, this strange strategy might just be the edge the hairy frog needs. It's a reminder that some of the most unsettling creatures in nature aren't the largest or the loudest. They're the quiet ones, the ones you'd walk past without noticing, the ones whose defenses are hidden beneath layers of skin and silence. And while the hairy frog uses brute force to protect itself, there are other animals that take a more eerie route, becoming invisible entirely, not by fleeing, not by fighting, but by folding themselves into the landscape so well they vanish before your eyes. Their safety lies not in strength, but in stillness. Their terror is not in what they do, but in how perfectly they disappear. In the inky depths of the ocean, where sunlight dies and darkness takes over, there drifts a creature that looks more like a machine than anything alive. It's small, quiet, and hauntingly still, and it carries a secret inside its skull. Meet the barrel-eye fish. This strange being doesn't swim like most fish. It hovers, suspended in the cold, deep sea. It floats as if unsure whether it's even real. Its body is simple and unremarkable, a small, sleek form with fins that hardly stir the water. But then you reach its head, and everything changes. Instead of scales or skin, the top of its head is transparent, a smooth, dome-like shell that looks like glass. Through it, you can see two green, tube-shaped eyes. not eyes on the outside like we're used to. These are set deep inside the head, pointing straight upward like binoculars watching the ceiling of the sea. And they move, quietly, precisely, pivoting inside the fluid filled dome like tiny pilots in a cockpit, adjusting to track prey or scan the world above. For a long time, scientists didn't know what they were looking at. When the barrel eye was first discovered, people thought the dark spots near its mouth were its eyes, but those were just nostrils. The real eyes were hidden inside, aimed through the fish's see through forehead like secret periscopes. Why such an odd design? Because the barrel eye lives in a part of the ocean where light is nearly gone, just a faint shimmer from the surface above. Up there, fish silhouetted against the fading light can be spotted if you know how to look, and the barrel eye knows how. Its upward facing eyes help it spot prey, usually small, drifting jellyfish or plankton, without having to move too much. It can remain still, invisible in the darkness, and simply wait. But its eyes don't just point upward. When needed, they rotate forward like turrets shifting aim. This lets the barrel eye line up its target, inch closer without being seen, and snatch a drifting morsel before it floats away. In a world where food is rare and predators are many, this quiet precision is a matter of life and death. Its transparent dome doesn't just look strange, it serves a purpose. It protects those delicate eyes from the stinging tentacles of jellyfish and other gelatinous prey. When the barrel eye swims directly into a drifting jelly cloud, it doesn't flinch. It's built to glide right through, its armored face shielding the sensitive tools inside. Everything about this fish feels borrowed from science fiction. It's like something that slipped out of a deep sea dream, too weird to be real, and yet here it is, floating miles beneath us, moving slowly through the dark. There's no aggression in it, no sharp teeth or fearsome speed, just a calm, calculated stillness and a strange, glowing gaze that never blinks. Even the way it feeds is gentle. Instead of lunging or chasing, it waits for the perfect moment, then quietly opens its small mouth and pulls in its prey. It doesn't rip or thrash. It doesn't need to. Precision is its power. This creature isn't loud or flashy, but there's something unsettling about it, not because it's dangerous, but because it's so alien. It forces us to remember that the ocean is another world entirely, with rules we don't understand and lives we've barely glimpsed. And yet, even among these silent watchers of the deep, some animals wear horror like armor. They don't just hide in plain sight or watch quietly from the shadows. They hunt in ways that turn the stomach. They wear death on their backs, or worse, they wear it like a disguise. Beneath the leaves, where light barely touches and shadows stretch long, moves a creature that rewrites the rules of creepy. It's not big, it doesn't roar, but it does something far more chilling. It wears its victims like a cloak. This is the assassin bug, and it doesn't just kill to eat, it kills to disappear. You might walk past it without even knowing. It looks like a lump of debris or a cluster of dirt stuck to a twig. But if you crouch down and stare long enough, something will shift. Tiny legs will move, a jagged body will tremble slightly, and you'll realize that this isn't a clump of leaves. It's a killer in disguise, one carrying a backpack made of corpses. The assassin bug doesn't want to be seen. It thrives on patience and deception, but hiding under a leaf only does so much, so it takes camouflage to the next level. After killing its prey, usually ants or small insects, it sucks their bodies dry through a long needle-like mouthpart, leaving behind empty husks. Then, using a special glue it secretes from its body, it attaches the lifeless remains to its back like a gruesome fashion statement, layer after layer, until it's wearing a spiky, writhing mound of death. Why go to such extremes? because the insect world is unforgiving. Everyone is either hunting or hiding, and the assassin bug does both. By covering itself in its victims' bodies, it becomes nearly invisible to predators who might be searching for something alive and moving. And just as cleverly, it sneaks past new prey who don't recognize the danger until it's far too late. Its hunting method is just as disturbing. The assassin bug doesn't bite like most insects. It stabs, using its sharp rostrum, that's the long, rigid tube sticking out of its face. It pierces the body of its victim and injects a powerful digestive enzyme. This liquid turns the insides of the prey into a soupy mixture the assassin bug can drink. What's left behind is nothing more than a dry, crumpled shell, perfect for its growing pile of armor. This style of feeding is called extraoral digestion, and it's both efficient and terrifying. The process is quiet, surgical, and merciless. The bug paralyzes its victim almost instantly, so there's no struggle, no chase, just a single moment, a stab, a twitch, and silence. But the real horror isn't just the method of attack, it's what comes next. After feeding, the assassin bug arranges the corpses with care. Some species carry dozens at a time, a moving tower of death that shuffles slowly along the forest floor. And each time it kills, it adds another body to the stack, making its disguise more effective and its armor thicker. This isn't random, it's a strategy perfected by evolution. Every dried husk serves a purpose: to protect, to deceive, to terrify. Some scientists believe the corpse armor does more than hide the assassin bug. It may also confuse the chemical signals predators use to identify prey. Smell plays a huge role in the insect world, and by masking itself in the scent of its victims, the assassin bug becomes a ghost, present but unreadable. Others think the mound of dead bodies serves as a physical shield, absorbing bites or blows from would-be attackers. Either way, it works, and here's what makes it all the more unsettling. This behavior isn't rare. It's found in assassin bug species across continents, from the dense forests of Asia to the jungles of South America. Nature didn't just invent this once, it kept it, which means this horrifying tactic is not only effective, it's successful. Evolution doesn't waste time on theatrics, it keeps what works. Yet the assassin bug isn't rushing around flaunting its horror. It moves with eerie stillness, often lurking beneath leaves or branches, waiting for the perfect moment. Its armor of death rustles softly as it moves, a gentle whisper of violence already done, and sometimes it doesn't even need to attack. Its disguise is so convincing that prey will walk right up to it, never realizing the mountain of corpses hides something alive, something watching, calculating, waiting. In a forest full of noise and chaos, the assassin bug is quiet, but its silence is deceptive. Underneath that pile of bodies is a mind designed for ambush, a body designed for precision, and a history soaked in survival. And in a world where death usually means the end, for the assassin bug, it's just another tool, another mask, another layer in the armor of nightmares. Just imagine brushing past a leaf and never knowing what horrors rode there with you until it's already too late. In the strange world beneath the waves, some creatures don't swim the way you'd expect. Some don't glide or dart or paddle through the water. Instead, they walk. And among the strangest of these sea walkers is the frogfish, a living oddity that doesn't just break the rules of nature's design, but dances on them. The frogfish is a master of the unexpected. About the size of a coconut and shaped like something you'd scoop off the ocean floor by accident, it hardly looks like a predator. Covered in lumps, spots, and warty textures, its body blends perfectly with coral, sponges, or rocks. Its colors can range from bright yellows to muddy browns or even pinks, and it doesn't stay one shade forever. A frogfish can slowly change its color over days or weeks, customizing its appearance to match its surroundings like a moody chameleon of the deep. But camouflage is just the start. What really sets the frogfish apart is how it moves, or more accurately, how it walks. With fins that look like stubby arms and legs, the frogfish lumbers along the seafloor in a clumsy, jerky gait. It doesn't flap or swim so much as shuffle, as if unsure whether it's a fish or a tiny underwater monster playing dress up. This peculiar motion makes it look less like a hunter and more like a lost puppet trying to find its place. And maybe that's the whole point, because the frogfish doesn't need speed. It doesn't chase its food, it lures it in. On top of its head is a strange fleshy rod, a built in fishing pole with a tempting bait like lure at the end. This rod, called an Elysium, twitches and dances through the water like a helpless little worm or shrimp. The rest of the frogfish remains utterly still, camouflaged to the point of invisibility. To a passing fish, it looks like a quick snack, but in the blink of an eye, literally faster than a human eye can track, the frogfish opens its enormous mouth and inhales the prey whole. No warning, no struggle, just gone. This mouth, for all its oddity, is a precision weapon. It expands so quickly that it creates a vacuum, sucking in water and prey in a flash. The entire attack takes only 6 milliseconds. That's faster than most cameras can capture. One moment, there's a fish minding its own business. The next, it vanishes into a strange hole that wasn't there a heartbeat ago. Unlike sharks or barracudas with rows of teeth, frogfish rely on this vacuum trick to feed. They don't tear or chew, they engulf. Their jaw can extend outwards to swallow creatures nearly their own size, and the stomach stretches to accommodate them. It's like watching a balloon eat another balloon. Stranger still, the frogfish can go long stretches without moving. Some have been known to sit in the same spot for days, waiting for prey to come close. When they do move, they might not even walk. Some inflate with water and hover slightly above the sand, gently propelling themselves forward with subtle fin flicks. Others will use jet propulsion, forcing water through tiny holes behind their gills to awkwardly launch themselves forward in short bursts. It's not graceful, but it works. And their hunting technique isn't limited to just fish. Frogfish are opportunists. If a crab wanders too close, or even another frogfish, it might end up as the next meal. Cannibalism is not uncommon. The slow, sleepy exterior hides a predator that's always ready to strike. What's more unsettling is how often prey has no idea it's in danger. The frogfish's lure is so convincing and its camouflage so complete that it becomes part of the landscape. The ocean is full of color and chaos, and in that noisy backdrop, the frogfish simply disappears until it doesn't. Even scientists have trouble spotting them. Divers often miss them entirely until one moves or strikes. It's as if the ocean created its own version of a ghost, quiet, bizarre, and deadly. And just when you think it can't get any weirder, some species of frogfish have been seen gulping in air from the surface if trapped in shallow tide pools. Their body structure allows them to survive in low oxygen environments longer than most reef fish, making them unexpectedly resilient for something that looks so soft and slow. From its awkward shuffle to its lightning fast jaws, the frogfish is a contradiction, a clumsy walker, a master of disguise, a patient ambusher, and a lightning predator, all rolled into one small sponge like body. You'd never expect it to be dangerous until it is. And then there's a creature that looks like it crawled out of a prehistoric nightmare, but it's very much alive, hiding among the forests and islands of New Zealand. The giant weta. At first glance, it resembles a supersized cricket, but its body is chunkier, armored, and far more unsettling. It's as if someone took an average insect, zoomed in too far, and then brought that image to life. The giant weta is in fact one of the heaviest insects on the planet. In some cases, it outweighs a sparrow. That's not a metaphor. There are real reports of these creatures tipping the scales at over 70 grams. You don't expect something that usually chirps in the grass to weigh as much as a small bird, but this one does, and it doesn't apologize for it. With large spiny legs, an armored shell like exoskeleton, and long antennae that twitch through the air like slow moving feelers, the giant weta doesn't exactly sneak around. It plods, it climbs, it simply exists in a way that seems too massive for something insect sized. What's strange is how old it feels. The weta is a relic, a living fossil. Its ancestors date back to the age of the dinosaurs, and when you look at it closely, it does seem like something that time forgot. Its face has a blank, unmoving expression. Its mandibles move mechanically, like something from a robotic lab, not a gentle forest. Its segmented body glistens slightly, the way plastic does after a rainstorm. In the right lighting, it almost looks artificial. Despite its intimidating appearance, the giant weta isn't aggressive. It doesn't hunt or pounce. It's a herbivore, feeding on leaves, bark, and fruits. But that doesn't make it any less eerie. There's something about seeing a creature that large, moving slowly through the undergrowth, antennae sweeping the space ahead like ancient sensors, that gives you pause. What makes it feel even more unnatural is its silence. It doesn't chirp like smaller relatives. It doesn't hiss or buzz. The giant weta moves through its environment in quiet, heavy steps, watchful, deliberate. And if disturbed, it freezes. It doesn't bolt or scurry. It just sits there, fully exposed, as if daring you to make the next move. That stillness can be more chilling than any defensive posture. Its sheer size puts it at a strange disadvantage. It can't jump as well as smaller insects. Its weight makes it clumsy. It can't fly, and so it relies on camouflage and immobility. In a way, it's become the insect version of a tank. Slow, quiet, tough, and unbothered. Its spiked legs add to that image, giving it the appearance of something armored for battle, even though it mostly uses them for climbing shrubs and trees. The native Maori name for the giant weta is Weta punga, and its survival is a delicate balance. Once widespread across New Zealand, the weta's numbers dropped drastically due to introduced predators, rats, cats, and stoats that found the slow moving giants an easy meal. Now, conservation efforts have relocated them to protected predator free islands, where they've slowly begun to recover. But there's something surreal about needing to protect an insect that outweighs a bird. It flips the food chain in strange ways. And yet, despite all its oddities, the size, the silence, the prehistoric design, what really gets under your skin is how unnatural it feels to see something so big crawling in a way your brain associates with tiny things. Insects aren't supposed to be this large. They're not supposed to be heavy. But here it is, perched on a branch, twitching its antenna, reminding you that nature doesn't care about rules or expectations. From a distance, you might mistake it for a piece of bark or a bundle of leaves. Up close, it becomes something else entirely. Its legs grip with an unnerving strength. Its mandibles flex. Its body pulses slightly with breath. You can hear it if you're close enough, not a sound from its mouth, but the faint creaking of its movement, like dry branches brushing against one another. The more you look, the more your mind struggles to place it. It doesn't belong in the same world as beetles and butterflies. It feels closer to something out of a stop motion horror film, alive, but almost too alive. not quite fitting into the neat categories we've made for nature. And just when you think your nerves can settle, along comes something that looks like it floated straight down from the clouds, delicate blue and shimmering, but holds a venomous secret beneath its beauty. Drifting just beneath the ocean's surface, almost too small to notice, is a creature that looks like it belongs in a dream or a myth. It's delicate, no longer than your pinky finger, yet its presence is impossible to ignore once you've seen it. The blue dragon, known by its scientific name Glaucus atlanticus, doesn't crawl or swim in the way most sea creatures do. It floats upside down, belly to the sky, carried by the ocean's surface tension and wind-blown currents. From above, it looks like a tiny splash of silver blue paint shimmering in the sun. But flip it over, or see it from below, and you'll discover the creature's true form. It has six feathery limbs that fan out like wings, trailing behind it like ribbons caught in the wind. Its colors shift from pale silver on its stomach to vibrant blues and deep indigos across its back, acting like camouflage from both directions. From above, it blends into the sparkling surface of the sea. From below, it vanishes into the blue depths. Nature, once again, showing off its most elegant tricks. But don't let its size or beauty fool you. The blue dragon is a thief and a deadly one. It doesn't just float for leisure, it floats with purpose. Its diet includes some of the most dangerous creatures in the ocean, like the Portuguese man o' war, whose venomous tentacles can inflict agonizing pain and even cause death. Most sea creatures avoid the man o' war. The blue dragon seeks it out. With tiny jaws, it bites into the floating tentacles and feeds on the stinging cells called nematocysts, not by destroying them, but by storing them. It moves those venomous cells through its body into the tips of its own serrata, those soft, feathery arms, and weaponizes them. The result is a creature that doesn't just become immune to its prey's venom, but actually turns it into something more potent. When touched, it can deliver a sting far more intense than the original jellyfish it fed on. Its method of hunting and stealing defenses from its prey is something called kleptoknidy, a rare and remarkable adaptation. Few animals in the world do this, and fewer still do it with such grace and subtlety. Watching it move, you'd never guess it was harboring the weapons of another predator. It doesn't thrash or dart, it floats, it sways, and yet it carries with it a defense so powerful, even humans have to be cautious. It doesn't form schools or swim in groups. Blue dragons live solitary lives spread across the currents of the open sea. They don't have fins or shells to protect them. Their safety lies in being nearly invisible, and if discovered, being more dangerous than they look. Their blue hues, while beautiful, serve as a warning sign to anything thinking of making a snack out of them. Their reproductive habits are equally strange. They are hermaphrodites, each individual possessing both male and female reproductive organs. When two blue dragons meet, they exchange genetic material, then part ways. The eggs are laid on driftwood, debris, or sometimes even the bodies of jellyfish. And when the babies hatch, they're born into a world of floating danger, already designed for it. Scientists have marveled at how such a small creature can pull off such a complicated biological trick. The precision required to store venomous cells without activating them, to repackage them into its own tissues, and to use them as weapons. It's the kind of thing that seems more like science fiction than marine biology. But the ocean is full of such contradictions. It hides the monstrous behind the beautiful. It cloaks violence and elegance, and nowhere is that more true than in the blue dragon. When it's carried ashore by strong winds, people who stumble upon it often mistake it for something harmless. Some even try to pick it up. That's when the sting comes, a burn, a pulse, a lasting reminder that the ocean doesn't always follow the rules we expect. Even the most fragile looking things can harbor a venomous surprise. And if this tiny ocean phantom wasn't eerie enough, imagine the ocean growing darker, colder, and deeper, where the creatures don't just absorb venom, but where even their heads become translucent windows into their thoughts. Far below the surface of the ocean, in a realm where sunlight never reaches, and the pressure could crush a submarine like a soda can, something stirs. It doesn't swim in the usual sense, it drifts, lurks, hangs eerily still in the water, as if waiting to be noticed or waiting to notice you. Its body is ghostly pale, almost translucent, and its long thread like arms stretch downward in strange jointed angles like they were designed by a puppeteer. Meet the Magnapinna squid, one of the deep ocean's most haunting mysteries. It's not just the way it moves that unsettles people, it's how alien it looks. Most squids keep their tentacles neatly bundled or coiled, ready to snatch prey or propel themselves. But the Magnapinna lets its arms hang straight down, each limb with an unnatural bend, forming what looks like an elbow. From those bends, ultra thin filaments trail into the abyss, arms so long that when stretched, the squid can span over 20 feet from top to tip. But you'd never guess it from the main body alone, which is barely the size of a dinner plate. In the flicker of deep sea submersibles, this creature doesn't dart or flee, it simply drifts, its limbs dangling like marionette strings, giving it the nickname the puppet squid. The effect is almost theatrical. It hovers in the blackness, limbs suspended, as if controlled by invisible hands above the stage. No sudden movements, no flashing lights, just silence and shadows. What makes this squid even more disturbing is how little we actually know about it. Fewer than 20 confirmed sightings exist. Most of them come from oil drilling cameras or deep sea exploration vehicles that happen to be in the right place at the right time. When the footage is reviewed, there it is, gliding across the screen like a creature from another world. No warning, no announcement, just a brief visit before it slips back into the dark. Its coloring is muted, soft browns and pale whites. No bold stripes or neon glows here, only camouflage that melts into the deep. And that's likely the point. In a place where the only light comes from bioluminescent flashes, stealth is survival. The Magnapinna isn't built to fight or chase, it's built to vanish. Its tentacles aren't just long, they're bizarrely flexible, able to bend and sway with the gentlest current. Some scientists believe it uses these threads to detect prey by touch alone, sensing vibrations or chemical trails in the water. Others suspect they may act like sticky fishing lines, brushing against small animals until something clings. But with so few encounters, much of this remains speculation. Even its biology is a puzzle. We don't know exactly how it reproduces, what it eats regularly, or how long it lives. Every clip of the Magna Pinna is treated like a rare fossil, a chance to glean a few more clues about a creature that seems designed to remain hidden. It's the kind of animal that reminds us how little we truly understand the deep. There's an eerie elegance to the Magna Pinna. It doesn't roar or glow or bear rows of razor teeth. It simply exists in a way that makes us question what else might be out there, drifting through the black like living riddles. You could pass it a dozen times and never know it was there, but once you see it, really see it, it sticks with you. And the ocean doesn't stop there. Beyond the puppet like silhouette of the Magna Pinna, the seafloor holds even stranger shapes. Not just things that move, but things that seem to float in place. Creatures that look like lost relics, and gelatinous forms that seem to combine the body of one animal with the face of another. Deep in the icy waters off the coast of Japan, Where the sea becomes a canvas of floating oddities, there drifts a creature that looks more like a cartoon hallucination than a living animal. If you saw it for the first time, you might think someone dropped a plush toy into the ocean, but it's no toy. It's the skeleton panda sea squirt, a name as strange as the animal itself. At first glance, it looks like a tiny ghostly panda head hovering in the water. Black spots around what appear to be eyes sit against a pale, bulbous body, giving the illusion of a skeletal panda skull staring blankly from the deep. But this isn't a head. It has no eyes, no brain, no real face, just patterns of pigmentation that our minds desperately try to turn into something familiar. It's one of nature's most bizarre forms of visual deception, an accidental illusion that makes the harmless filter feeder look like the spirit of a long lost creature. Its body is gelatinous and semi transparent, shaped like a squishy balloon with holes at either end. The mouth isn't for biting or speaking, it's a siphon, drawing in water filled with plankton and microscopic food particles. Like other sea squirts, it survives by passively filtering whatever floats its way. It doesn't chase, hunt, or flee. It just floats and feeds, drifting slowly through the ocean's currents, like a jelly bag with a personality it didn't ask for. What makes the skeleton panda sea squirt so striking is the strange contrast it presents. It looks like it should belong in a haunted zoo or on a Halloween t shirt, yet its actual function is one of the ocean's simplest. It eats by letting water pass through its body, trapping nutrients along the way. It doesn't have a nervous system like ours. It can't think, feel fear, or even recognize other creatures around it. And yet, its eerie appearance draws attention from divers, scientists, and the curious few who've ever seen one in person. They're members of the tunicate family, which includes thousands of filter feeding sea squirts. Most tunicates are drab, unremarkable blobs clinging to rocks or coral. But this one floats freely in the water column. It doesn't attach itself to anything. It just bobs and pulses in the cold blue, a living enigma with a face that isn't a face. That ghostly panda look might serve a purpose. While it's unlikely the creature evolved to resemble a panda specifically, the stark black and white contrast could help it avoid being eaten. In nature, strange patterns often serve as warnings or camouflage. Predators that mistake it for something poisonous or something dead might swim right past without taking a bite. Or maybe it's just an accident of nature, a pattern that emerged by chance and happened to look like something familiar to us. The skeleton panda sea squirt is also a reminder of how weirdly simple evolution can be. Strip away complexity, remove the spine, the bones, the teeth, the eyes. What's left? A soft, open ended body that lets water in, absorbs nutrients, and lets the rest pass through. No drama, no chase scenes, just quiet survival in the background of a world filled with noise. And while it may seem primitive, the sea squirt lineage is far from insignificant. In fact, tunicates are more closely related to humans than many other invertebrates. During their larval stage, some tunicates even have a primitive nerve cord, similar to the early form of a spinal cord. They lose it as they mature, dissolving it away once they anchor and become filter feeding adults. It's almost poetic. They begin life with a potential for movement and complexity, but choose stillness and simplicity instead. The skeleton panda sea squirt floats through a part of the sea where the light dims and silence reigns. There are no flashing lures, no snapping jaws, no swirling hunting packs, just a slow dance of filter feeders, drifting through waters too cold and deep for most life to touch. And in that stillness, a ghostly face watches with empty sockets, fooling no one and yet fooling everyone. But the deep doesn't rest for long. Not far from these floating phantoms, other creatures with longer limbs and sharper features stir, ones that stretch out like shadows with limbs as long as fishing lines, bending at eerie angles like puppets on invisible strings. Beneath the waters off Japan's coast, where the sea floor rolls into rocky trenches and the currents drift like forgotten dreams, there walks a creature that seems more imagined than real. It moves slowly, with an ancient grace, legs clicking faintly across the ocean bed. Its reach is so vast, so exaggerated, it seems to stretch across dimensions, like something that should be lumbering across the screen in a monster movie, not gliding silently through the deep. This is the Japanese spider crab. With legs that can span over 12 feet from claw to claw, it holds the record for the largest leg span of any arthropod on Earth. And yet, despite its size, it's not a fierce predator. It doesn't chase prey or snap wildly like the monsters it resembles. Instead, it lumbers with caution, its thin, spindly limbs folding and unfolding like the delicate arms of a marionette. At the center of those limbs sits a small body, no bigger than a basketball, almost modest compared to the sprawl around it. Its exoskeleton is covered in bumps and patches, textured like old coral or rusted metal. In some places, it looks like barnacles have claimed it. In others, bits of algae wave softly as if the crab itself is part of the seafloor. And that's not far from the truth. The Japanese spider crab is a master of disguise. It's been known to decorate its shell with ocean debris, pieces of sponge, seaweed, even shells, not out of artfulness, but for camouflage. It doesn't want to be seen. Despite its eerie appearance, the crab is not aggressive. It's a scavenger. It feeds mostly on dead animals and plant matter that sink to the bottom, ocean leftovers, discarded life. It wanders patiently, sifting through the debris like a quiet caretaker of the abyss. When it does eat, its claws move with careful precision, picking and tearing as gently as something that massive can. The way it moves adds to its strangeness. Those long legs don't scurry. They arch and lower, slow and deliberate, one after another in a rhythm that's more like a dance than a crawl. Each step feels like it was thought through in advance, as though the crab is measuring the earth, calculating its place on the map with each forward stretch. And perhaps most strange of all is how old these creatures can get. Some are believed to live over 100 years. That means the crab crawling across the bottom today might have been alive during global events it could never know about, moving slowly through generations of human history without ever surfacing. It doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, it simply continues. Its arms, those massive jointed legs, aren't just for walking, they're tools for survival. They help it maneuver across uneven terrain, climb, and even fight when it needs to. Though rare, territorial disputes between males can look like underwater duels, their long limbs weaving and jabbing like slow motion spears. And yet these fights rarely end in bloodshed. Like ancient warriors, they posture more than they pierce, knowing the value of energy and the cost of real damage. During mating season, the crab's behavior changes just slightly. Males seek out females in the rocky slopes of the seafloor. After mating, the female carries her eggs, thousands of them, beneath her abdomen. She guards them as she walks until it's time to release them into the water, where the tiny larvae float away, nearly invisible, lost in the currents of the ocean's cradle. Most won't survive, but a few will, and those few, over decades, might one day stretch their own arms 12 feet wide. Despite their terrifying silhouette, Japanese spider crabs have been hunted by humans for generations. In some coastal villages, they're seen as a delicacy, pulled from the deep and served at festival tables. But conservationists now warn that their numbers are dwindling, their ancient lives cut short for fleeting meals. Still, they endure, lurking in shadows where the light cannot reach, among underwater canyons that echo with silence. These giants wait and walk. They remind us that not all monsters roar. Some just wander, and in the deep sea, wandering giants are never alone, because just beyond the next ridge, where volcanic vents breathe hot clouds into the cold dark, lurk creatures with glowing eyes and limbs that seem to bend against logic. Somewhere between the folds of a woolly rug and the swaying cords of an old mop, there walks a creature that doesn't quite seem real. Its coat drags softly across the floor like tendrils of twisted yarn, and if you didn't see it move, if you only glimpsed it from the corner of your eye, you might not even realize it's alive. But then it blinks, or shifts, or suddenly turns toward you with a hidden snout peeking from within the dangling ropes. This is the Commodore. Unlike the other creatures we've met tonight, the Commodore doesn't dwell in deep oceans or haunted forests. It lives among us, in fields, on farms, sometimes curled up on porches, but something about it feels like it wandered in from another dimension. Its long corded coat isn't fur in the usual sense, it's more like a cloak, a mass of thick white dreadlocks that grow naturally and tangle over time, forming curtain like strands that reach the ground. And underneath all that, it's hard to say, because you rarely see its body. The dog seems to vanish beneath the coat, it becomes the coat. This odd appearance once had a purpose. In the vast grasslands of Hungary, where the Komondor originated, it was bred as a livestock guardian, especially for sheep. And the resemblance wasn't just strange coincidence. The Komondor was meant to blend in. Among a flock of wool covered animals, predators wouldn't spot it until it was too late. Then, in a blur of movement, this shaggy sentinel would charge, defend, and disappear again among its herd. Its size helps too. The Commodore is no small dog. It's tall and broad, often weighing over 100 pounds. But the way it moves defies that bulk. The cord swings side to side as it walks, hiding its limbs, muffling the sound of paws. You see motion, but not the source. The body remains hidden, shrouded like a phantom in a handmade disguise. And that face, or rather the mystery of it, is what truly gives the Commodore its uncanny charm. You can't always tell where the face begins or ends. The cords fall across its eyes like heavy curtains, giving it a faceless, featureless look, just a moving mop with a mind of its own. When it lifts its head or tilts to one side, there's often a moment of uncertainty. Are you looking into its eyes? Or just at more fur? The effect is strangely mesmerizing, like watching a puppet you're not quite sure is being controlled. Despite their odd looks, Commodores are incredibly intelligent. They're loyal, independent thinkers, trained for centuries to make decisions on their own in the wild. But this intelligence doesn't come with showy tricks or tail wagging enthusiasm. The Commodore watches first, stays still, calculates. It isn't shy, but it doesn't give away its thoughts easily. It studies you from behind its veil of cords, then acts when it's ready. Maintaining that distinctive coat isn't easy either. It doesn't shed in the way most dogs do. Instead, the cords form naturally from the puppy's soft fur as it matures. Owners have to carefully separate and maintain the strands to avoid matting or tangling too tightly. Bathing them is an adventure. The thick cords soak up water like sponges and can take hours or even days to dry. In fact, a wet Commodore weighs almost double its dry size. It becomes a dripping, woolly beast, both pitiful and majestic at the same time. And while it may not be dangerous, There's something eerie about how it occupies space. Most animals give off signals, a visible wag of the tail, perk of the ears, shift in posture, but the commandor conceals all that. Its body language is hidden. You see movement, but not meaning, emotion, but not expression. It's like communicating with something halfway between dog and illusion. Even when resting, it doesn't curl up like other dogs. It folds. It becomes a pile of ropes on the floor. Guests might mistake it for a blanket or a mop left behind until it sighs or shifts position. The moment when realization dawns that it's alive is always a little jarring, no matter how many times you've seen it before. And perhaps that's what makes the Commodore so captivating. It's not the growl or the glare or the size, it's the strangeness, the way it blurs the line between creature and cloth, the quiet, watchful presence hiding behind all that hair. And once you've seen one, it's hard to forget, because even in a world filled with oddities and marvels, the Commodore doesn't look like it belongs. It looks like something that walked out of a story, or maybe crept in while no one was looking. But if you thought a living mop was strange, then just wait. Some creatures don't walk at all. They glow, float, and flicker through the air like drifting spirits. From a distance, it might look like a thorn sprouting legs, but get a little closer, just close enough to wonder if your eyes are playing tricks on you, and suddenly it moves. It shifts its stance like a tiny sentinel, balanced on six needle like legs, with a pointed spine arching high above its back. The Ambonia spinosa doesn't walk like an insect, it struts like an alien scout, part robot, part plant, part something else entirely. Found in tropical and subtropical regions of the Americas, especially in Central and South America, this creature is no larger than your fingernail, but its shape makes it impossible to ignore. The main feature is that thorn shaped protrusion, jutting up like a miniature sail or blade. In some individuals, the thorn curves dramatically, while in others it juts straight out like a lance. Its colors vary wildly: bright greens, reds, and yellows, sometimes with intricate patterns, giving it the appearance of a jewel encrusted dagger growing from a twig. That's not a coincidence. Ambonia spinosa lives on stems and branches, often of ornamental or fruit bearing plants. And that strange shape? It's camouflage. Predators scanning a plant for prey might miss it entirely, mistaking it for just another sharp outgrowth of bark. But camouflage is just one part of its bizarre biology. This thorn bug is a member of the treehopper family, known for their outlandish headgear, but Ambonia spinosa takes things a step further. Its strange form isn't just decorative, it's part of its communication system. You see, this creature doesn't make sound the way we think of it, not with buzzing or chirping, but by vibrating the very stems it sits on. Using a specialized structure in its abdomen, it sends pulsed signals, tiny tremors through the plant. Other thorn bugs pick up these signals through their legs, like messages in Morse code. Their warning calls, mating songs, or simple acknowledgments. A secret language of vibrations spoken in silence, unnoticed by the world around them. And they don't do this alone. Ambonia spinosa is unusually social for an insect. Females will lay clusters of eggs on stems, then guard them fiercely. Yes, guard them. Insects like this aren't supposed to care. They're supposed to move on. But the female thorn bug stays. She shields the eggs with her body. If something disturbs the plant, she sends out a vibration warning. The young, when they hatch, begin to communicate back. They'll even vibrate in unison if threatened, creating a chorus of silent alarm. The young nymphs, while smaller and lacking the full spike of the adults, already look strange. Their legs are long and spindly, Their eyes, set on the sides of their heads, seem almost too aware for something so tiny. They huddle together, feeding on sap, drinking directly from the plant's veins, using sharp, straw like mouths. All the while, the mother hovers nearby, her thorn like body swaying gently with the stem's movement, ready to defend if needed. Scientists believe this maternal behavior may have evolved as a defense mechanism. With such strange shapes and bright colors, the bugs might be easier to spot by certain predators, especially birds. But with numbers comes protection. The family group sends out signals that something is watching, waiting, and ready to strike back with coordinated action. And if you try to handle one, the illusion breaks even more. That rigid robotic look is deceptive. Its movements are twitchy, quick, almost mechanical. The legs skitter with surprising precision. The eyes remain still, cold, unblinking. It doesn't panic or flail. It simply tries to reposition, shifting its spiked back toward you like a threat display, even though it has no real weapon. It relies on confusion, on spectacle, on the very idea that something so bizarre must be dangerous. Its presence raises more questions than it answers. Why such a shape? Why such colors? Why the elaborate, almost otherworldly design for a creature that lives for months and dies in silence? The Umbonia spinosa feels like the result of a design challenge. Create something that blends in and stands out at the same time, something alien, yet perfectly suited to its place on Earth. And still, the most haunting part may be the stillness. You don't hear it, you don't feel it, but beneath your fingertips, if you rest your hand on the stem where it perches, you might detect a faint tremor, the hum of invisible messages pulsing through the plant, a code exchanged between beings we barely notice, a secret world stitched into the branches, whispering in frequencies we can't hear. And just when you think things can't get more bizarre, when a walking thorn that sings through stems already feels like a peak, something even stranger creeps into view. This one doesn't try to blend in. It vanishes entirely, becoming something else, hiding in plain sight, even when you're staring right at it. It was only in 2009 that the world first caught a glimpse of something that looked like it belonged more in a fantasy book than real life. A fluffy, wide eyed creature discovered in the Grand Sabana region of Venezuela. And at first sight, it was hard to know what to make of it. With its oversized antennae, pale snow white fuzz, and strangely expressive face, the Venezuelan poodle moth didn't look like any insect people were used to. It looked knitted, almost like a tiny stuffed animal with wings. But the deeper you look, the stranger it becomes. The moth was photographed by Dr. Arthur Anker, a zoologist who couldn't have known that his single snapshot would set the internet on fire. Some people believed it was fake, others were convinced it was a puppet or a digital rendering, but it wasn't. It was real and still barely understood. Measuring only about 1 inch across, the Venezuelan poodle moth is covered head to wingtip in what appears to be fur, but is actually dense scales, tiny, hair-like structures that many moths have, but few display so extravagantly. These scales scatter light and give it that ghostly soft appearance. The body looks chubby, almost cartoonish, while its wings seem undersized, like a cape that doesn't quite fit. But the strangest part? Its face. With large, dark, forward facing eyes and feathery antennae that curl out like stylized eyebrows, it almost looks humanoid. Not in a realistic way, but just enough to trigger something deep and instinctive. That eerie sense of seeing a face where none should be. The kind of thing that makes your brain stop for a second and whisper, "That's not right." Scientists believe this moth likely belongs to the Artis genus, related to other flannel moths, some of which also sport fuzzy appearances. But even among that strange family, the Venezuelan poodle moth stands out. Its exaggerated features make it a walking paradox. On one hand, it's undeniably cute. On the other, it feels unnatural, like a character designed by someone who's never seen Earth before but tried to guess what would seem friendly to humans. Its fluff isn't just for show. That fuzzy covering likely helps with thermoregulation in the cool, humid mountain air where it was found. It might also serve as protection, acting like insulation against both predators and the elements. And speaking of predators, those big anime like eyes aren't real eyes at all. They're likely a form of mimicry, exaggerated features that help scare off birds or lizards who might think twice before eating something that looks so strange, so deliberate, so unlike prey. But unlike other moths that rely on sudden flashes of color or patterns that mimic owl eyes, the Venezuelan poodle moth's weapon is subtlety. It relies on the brain's discomfort with contradiction. It's soft yet alien, familiar yet foreign, and that makes it memorable. Because it's so newly discovered, scientists still know very little about its behavior. Does it fly often? Is it nocturnal like most moths? What does it eat exactly? Where does it lay its eggs? These remain open questions. The region where it was found, Canaima National Park, is remote and difficult to study, especially at night when moths are active. So for now, this peculiar creature remains mostly a mystery. Yet it's already left its mark. It's inspired art, memes, scientific curiosity, and even fear in some corners of the internet. And that speaks to its power, not as a predator, not as a danger, but as a mirror. The Venezuelan poodle moth reminds us that not everything in nature fits into neat categories. Some creatures exist right at the edge of what we expect, forcing us to look again, to question what's possible. It's not the only animal that makes us pause. Nature is full of creatures that seem to blur the line between the real and the imaginary. Some with glowing organs, some with glass bones, and some like what's coming next, that have developed a superpower so strange it makes invisibility seem tame. Imagine a living being that disappears into its environment so completely it leaves behind nothing but an echo of its shape, even under direct light. A creature not designed to be seen at all. In the quiet canals of ancient lakes near Mexico City, there lives a creature that seems to have missed a step in evolution, but not by accident. It floats, it smiles, and it never grows up. The axolotl, often called the Peter Pan of the animal kingdom, is a type of salamander that defies the usual rules of development. While most amphibians transition from water-bound larvae to land-dwelling adults, the axolotl simply doesn't. It remains suspended in youth, gills fluttering like pink coral branches from the sides of its head, and a gentle, unchanging grin stretched across its soft face. Its scientific name, Ambystoma mexicanum, might sound clinical, but what it represents is anything but ordinary. The axolotl's refusal to metamorphose is a phenomenon called neoteny. That means it keeps its juvenile features into adulthood. The external feathery gills, the tadpole like tail, the smooth skin. While other salamanders outgrow their aquatic life and adapt for land, the axolotl remains a permanent resident of the water, breathing through gills that fan out like delicate underwater flowers. But the most uncanny thing about the axolotl isn't just how it looks, it's what it can do. If it loses a limb, it grows a new one. If it damages its spine, or even part of its heart or brain, it can regenerate the lost tissue almost perfectly. No scarring, no visible trace that anything was ever broken. Scientists have been fascinated by this for decades, digging into its genome to uncover the secrets of its healing abilities. What they found shocked them. The axolotl has one of the largest genomes ever mapped, over 10 times the size of a human's. Within those vast stretches of genetic code may lie the blueprint for regeneration, not just for salamanders, but for us too. And yet, for all its scientific wonder, the axolotl also seems strangely gentle. It moves slowly, gliding more than swimming, its tiny legs paddling softly as its wide eyes, without eyelids, take in its surroundings. It isn't aggressive. It doesn't hunt in the traditional sense. It waits. With its little smile and oddly placid expression, it lets small prey drift too close before gently inhaling them into its mouth. It doesn't even chew. Everything about this creature is soft, passive, and calm. Its coloration can range from a wild type dark gray or olive to a pale pinkish white with gold flecked eyes that seem almost unreal. The most iconic is the leucistic axolotl, creamy skin, soft pink gills, and beady black eyes that looks like it was dreamed up in a lab, and in some ways it was. While wild axolotls are critically endangered due to pollution and habitat destruction, they thrive in captivity. Labs, aquariums, and pet enthusiasts have bred them in such numbers that they're more common behind glass than in the waters of their native lake Issaquimilco. The contrast is haunting. In the wild, the axolotl is vanishing. Its home, once a vast network of clear canals fed by mountain springs, has shrunk to scattered, polluted patches. Invasive fish, habitat loss, and urban growth have pushed this timeless creature to the brink. Yet, in labs around the world, it flourishes under observation, carefully measured and studied, not as a pet, but as a promise. A creature that might help us understand how to rebuild what's broken, not just in nature, but within ourselves. And it isn't just about regeneration. The axolotl's ability to avoid aging as we know it, to live its whole life in a state of suspended transformation, has made researchers question how we define maturity, growth, even mortality. Why does it resist the final step that all other amphibians accept? Is it a biological accident or a masterstroke of adaptation? In a way, the axolotl is less like an animal and more like a living riddle, a question with gills and a permanent smile, one that floats serenely in still waters, inviting us to rethink what's natural, what's fixed, and what might still be possible. And just when you think nature can't surprise you anymore, it hands you something that defies even the deepest logic. An animal that transforms not by changing, but by refusing to change at all. But transformation comes in many forms. Some creatures turn inside out, some grow limbs from bone shards, and some, like what's coming next, can vanish right before your eyes, folding into their world like a whisper lost in the wind. Beneath the crushing weight of the ocean, in places so deep that sunlight has never touched them, there are ecosystems powered not by photosynthesis, but by heat and chemicals leaking from the Earth's crust. Around these hydrothermal vents, massive underwater chimneys that spew superheated water rich in minerals, life gathers in forms that often feel more science fiction than science. And among them, perched like some deep sea myth made real, is the Yeti crab. Discovered in 2005 near Easter Island, the Yeti crab Kiwa hirsuta looked like it had wandered in from a different realm. Pale, ghostly white, with a soft, curved body and long arms covered in silky blonde bristles, it was instantly unlike anything researchers had seen before. Its appearance earned it the name, an homage to the legendary abominable snowman of the Himalayas. But instead of snow, this Yeti thrives in boiling darkness, huddled around vents where water temperatures can reach over 400 degrees Celsius. At first glance, its arms look like they've been dipped in cotton, but those bristles called sei are more than decoration. They're farming tools. On those hairy limbs, the Yeti crab cultivates colonies of bacteria. These microbes aren't just freeloaders. They help the crab survive in one of the harshest habitats on Earth. The bacteria feed on the hydrogen sulfide and methane that pour out of the vents. In return, the crab uses its clawed limbs to sweep the bacterial mats toward its mouth like a deep sea gardener harvesting crops. It doesn't hunt, it doesn't scavenge, it farms. But the strangeness doesn't stop there. The Yeti crab doesn't have eyes. In the pitch black world it lives in, vision is useless. Instead, it likely relies on touch and chemical signals in the water to navigate. Everything about its body is designed for a place where pressure would crush most animals and temperatures swing from freezing cold to scorching heat in a matter of inches. Its posture is almost monk like, as if kneeling in prayer at the feet of the vents. Dozens of them can be found clustering together in vent fields, their pale limbs gently waving in the chemical rich currents. This eerie stillness, combined with the glowing plumes rising behind them, makes the scene feel unearthly, like some ritual frozen in time. Researchers have marveled not only at their farming behavior, but also at their ability to tolerate toxicity. Hydrogen sulfide, the very gas the bacteria feed on, is lethal to most surface life. Yet here, in these depths, it fuels an entire hidden food chain, with the Yeti crab as one of its most peculiar participants. The claws themselves are asymmetrical. One is often larger than the other, possibly used to rake bacteria with more precision. And while most crabs are known for their armor and aggression, the Yeti crab seems more passive, relying on its bacterial allies rather than brute force. Interestingly, different species of Yeti crab have since been found at other vent sites, including near the Antarctic. One of them, Kiwa tyleri, takes the strangeness a step further, swarming vents in such massive numbers that they form literal carpets of white crustaceans piled on top of each other like some alien invasion scene. Yet, despite their numbers and ghostly appearance, they remain elusive, hidden away from the surface world, their lives dictated by vents that could collapse or cool at any time. Without these vents, the bacteria die. Without the bacteria, the Yeti crab starves. It's a delicate dependency in a brutal environment, proof that even in the most unforgiving corners of the planet, life finds a way through relationships, adaptation, and quiet resilience. And perhaps that's what makes the Yeti crab so fascinating. It doesn't roar or chase or dominate. It persists through patience. In a world where survival often means outcompeting others, this creature thrives by nurturing invisible life on its own limbs. But there's always more hidden in the blackness. As we follow the heat trails and chemical plumes even deeper into the abyss, we begin to meet animals that don't just blend into their surroundings. They vanish, become shadows, or glow with their own internal light. The further we go, the more we realize that nature's imagination is far stranger and far more beautiful than anything we could have dreamed. Down in the cold, crushing blackness of the ocean's abyss, where light never reaches and pressure is enough to implode metal, there waddles a creature that looks like something between a jelly filled toy and an alien with feet. The sea pig, a soft bodied echinoderm related to sea cucumbers, glides slowly across the deep sea floor like a balloon that learned to walk. It's squishy, pink, and semi transparent, with tiny leg like appendages that look like a toddler's drawing of a spider. And yet, in its own way, it's strangely endearing. Sea pigs belong to the genus Scotoplanes, and although their appearance might trigger both amusement and unease, their role in the deep sea ecosystem is surprisingly serious. These creatures are scavengers, cleaners of the ocean's forgotten corners. Wherever a whale carcass falls or dead matter settles from above, sea pigs show up in small herds, sometimes gathering in the dozens or even hundreds, like a slow motion stampede of plush toys with legs. Their skin is so soft and gelatinous that you could see through parts of it if you were close enough. Unlike their spiny cousins like sea urchins or starfish, sea pigs have adapted to the crushing pressure and low temperatures by giving up armor altogether. Instead, their bodies are inflated, filled with water, making them lightweight and flexible enough to survive in a world where even bones can collapse. But what really grabs attention are the legs. Sea pigs usually have 5 to 7 tube like structures underneath them, technically called tube feet, but they don't look like any feet we're used to. These appendages are hydraulic, meaning the sea pig uses water pressure to inflate and move them, stepping softly across the muddy seafloor like it's tiptoeing over clouds. They don't swim, they walk in a quiet, eerie shuffle that looks half robotic and half dreamlike. On their back, small antenna like structures gently sway with the currents. These are sensory organs used to detect chemicals and vibrations in the water that might lead them to their next meal. They don't have eyes. There's no need for vision in their pitch black world, but they're excellent at sniffing out decaying matter. A fallen fish, a squid, or even just organic marine snow drifting down from the upper layers of the ocean can draw them in, and they're not picky eaters. Sea pigs have little tube like mouths on the underside of their bodies, which they press into the mud to suck up whatever nutrients they can find. They're like living Roombas, gently vacuuming the sea floor of anything edible. What's unsettling, though, is how calm they look while doing it. There's no rush, no panic, just a slow, deliberate gliding that never breaks rhythm. They're incredibly sensitive to their environment. In fact, one of the most fascinating things about sea pigs is their response to the chemical signature of death. When a whale dies and its body falls to the ocean floor, it creates what's called a whale fall, a sudden explosion of nutrients in an otherwise food poor environment. Sea pigs somehow detect this from miles away, and within days they converge from all directions. It's not a frenzy, it's a gathering. Quiet, slow, almost respectful, but purposeful. Despite their delicate appearance, sea pigs are not defenseless. They produce toxins in their skin, likely to discourage predators like deep sea crabs and fish from taking a bite. Not much is known about their reproduction or lifespan, partly because capturing and studying them alive is so difficult. They collapse under low pressure, so most of what we know comes from remotely operated vehicles that record their behavior in the wild. There's something ghostly about seeing a herd of sea pigs crawl across the ocean bottom. They seem weightless, drifting just above the mud with their balloon like bodies pulsing ever so slightly. They aren't fast, they don't flash or hiss or bite, but they persist. Like most deep sea creatures, they've learned to make the most of what little the ocean gives them: patience, pressure, and perpetual darkness. But even stranger creatures wait beyond the crawling sea pigs, animals that don't just walk on legs or float on currents, but seem to defy structure altogether. Some glow like stars, others fold like paper. The deeper we go, the more the rules of form and function begin to blur. Down here, evolution gets bold, and the line between bizarre and beautiful fades into mystery. High in the cloud forests of Central and South America, where mist clings to moss covered trees and raindrops roll lazily off emerald leaves, lives a creature so delicate it's almost invisible. Perched quietly on a leaf's underside, the glass frog doesn't seem real at first glance. It's not just green, it's nearly see through, and not in the way some jellyfish are translucent. This frog's skin is so transparent that you can actually see its organs inside. You can watch its heart thump. You can trace its intestines curling in soft loops. Even its bones are visible beneath the shimmering skin of its belly. This level of transparency feels unnatural, like something out of a lab experiment. But it's nature, unfiltered and uncensored. The frog's back is typically a lime green, helping it blend in with the lush canopy. But flip it over, and its underside reveals a living anatomy lesson. Scientists don't fully understand why the glass frog evolved this way. Some think it's a form of camouflage, breaking up its body's outline to make it harder for predators to detect. Others believe the transparency might play a role in temperature regulation or even communication, though nothing has been confirmed. What's truly strange is how selective the transparency is. The skin over the belly is see through, but the heart itself remains slightly opaque, almost like it's deliberately highlighted, as if nature wanted you to witness life beating in real time. It makes observing the frog feel intimate, even intrusive, like you're watching something private that was never meant to be seen. During the day, these frogs stay hidden beneath leaves, pressed flat like little green stamps, resting silently. Their skin catches the dappled light in a way that makes them blend almost perfectly with the vegetation. From above, a predator would just see a leaf. From below, it's as if the frog is made of glass. This unique adaptation seems to give them a subtle but powerful defense, invisibility without needing to move. But at night, everything changes. That's when the males come alive, croaking their high pitched calls across the forest, hoping to attract a mate. Their songs echo through the dripping leaves, sounding more like tiny chirps than deep croaks. When a female approaches, the male clasps her in a mating position called amplexus. They'll remain that way for hours as she lays her eggs, usually on the underside of a leaf that hangs over a stream or river. This positioning is no accident. It sets the stage for one of the frog's most fascinating behaviors. Once the eggs are laid and fertilized, the male often stays behind to guard them. In some species of glass frogs, he even hydrates the eggs by urinating on them, keeping them moist until they hatch. It's a strange and surprisingly tender form of parental care. Eventually, the tadpoles wiggle free from the jelly like eggs and drop into the water below, where they'll continue developing in relative safety. But even the eggs are targets in this world. Wasps and snakes are known to prey on them. In response, some male glass frogs have developed a startling defense. If a predator approaches, the tiny frog will leap into action, physically batting away intruders with kicks and body slams. It's an aggressive display from a creature that otherwise seems so fragile. These frogs are more than just strange looking, they're fragile indicators of ecosystem health. Because they depend on clean flowing water and stable humidity, they're extremely sensitive to environmental changes. As deforestation, climate change, and pollution creep further into their habitats, glass frog populations are becoming more vulnerable. Some species have already vanished before they were properly studied. Others remain elusive, glimpsed only once before disappearing back into the trees like a green ghost. Still, every so often, researchers find new species of glass frogs, ones with slightly different colors, patterns, or levels of transparency. In 2015, a species was discovered in Costa Rica with such a vividly visible heart and organs that it was nicknamed the Kermit frog for its uncanny resemblance to the Muppet character. But this was no puppet, it was very real, and its body offered a glimpse into the raw mechanics of life, pulsing just beneath the skin. Just when you think you've seen it all, the rainforest peels back another layer, and soon you'll meet a creature so ethereal it barely seems tethered to the ground. Its glow doesn't come from the sun or the moon, but from within. Somewhere in the dense moonlit jungles of Southeast Asia, a strange little face peeks through the shadows. It doesn't blink much, and it doesn't need to. Its eyes are so massive they barely fit into its skull. In fact, if a human had eyes this big in proportion to their head, they'd be the size of grapefruits. This is the tarsier, an animal so small you could cup it in your hands, and yet one look at its enormous eyes and you'd swear it's staring straight into your soul. Those eyes aren't just for show, they're designed for the night. The tarsier is a nocturnal hunter, and in the deep gloom of the forest canopy, sight becomes everything. But there's a twist. Despite having some of the biggest eyes for its body size in the animal kingdom, tarsiers can't actually move them. They're locked in place like fixed lenses. So instead, nature gave the tarsier a workaround, a neck that can rotate nearly 180 degrees in each direction. 1 second it's facing away from you, and the next it's staring directly at you without moving its body at all. It's a talent that feels more supernatural than scientific. And yet, this tiny primate is all precision. Every movement is calculated. When it jumps, it doesn't just hop, it launches like a spring, leaping nearly 40 times its body length in a single bound, from one tree branch to another, in total silence. It's this ability that helps it catch prey with deadly accuracy. Tarsiers aren't content nibbling on fruit like many of their primate cousins. These creatures are carnivorous. Their diet is a chilling little list of forest dwellers, insects, lizards, birds, even snakes if they're small enough. They don't stalk, they wait, perfectly still, eyes wide, body coiled, then they pounce. And when they do, the kill is swift. With their long fingers tipped in gripping pads, they seize their target midair or snatch it off a branch. Their sharp teeth sink in quickly. There's no roar, no struggle, just a quiet moment of violence in the treetops, gone as fast as it came. It's hard to reconcile this behavior with their delicate appearance. Their fur is soft like velvet. Their tiny hands look gentle, but their lives are built on silence, speed, and surprise. It's not just their appearance that's unsettling, it's their sound. Tarsiers make ultrasonic calls, frequencies too high for humans to hear. When they do speak at a pitch we can detect, it's often a high pitched chirp or eerie whistle. These calls cut through the forest like an alarm that only certain ears are meant to hear. For researchers, these sounds are a way to track them. But for tarsiers, they're a secret language, one of warnings, boundaries, and possibly even bonding. They don't live in large groups. Most tarsiers prefer a solitary life or form tight family units. Mating pairs may share a territory, but even then, interactions are limited. Their world is built on patience, on nighttime routines, on keeping hidden until it's time to act. Their eyes may look permanently alarmed, but inside those eyes is a laser focused predator. The more you look at them, the more they resemble something drawn in a fever dream. Their ears twitch constantly, adjusting to the faintest rustle. Their limbs are long and spindly, especially the fingers and toes, which seem almost too delicate to be real. And their bodies, small, fragile looking, and always tense, seems designed less for comfort and more for sudden escape. They're built for the trees and rarely touch the ground where they're more vulnerable. Up in the branches, they can vanish in a blur. Despite their unnerving stare and odd behaviors, tarsiers are highly vulnerable. Deforestation has carved up the jungles they call home, leaving behind isolated pockets of habitat that don't support their quiet lifestyle. Some species are critically endangered. They won't survive in a cage either. Tarsiers do not adapt well to captivity. The stress of confinement can be fatal. That haunting look in their eyes. In a cage, it becomes a permanent panic. And yet, for all their alien like features, they are close relatives of ours. They're primates, like us, just a very different branch of the tree. A glimpse into what evolution can create when it carves for shadows and silence, not sunlight and noise. But the forest has more secrets, because once your eyes adjust to the dark, you begin to notice a new kind of glow, faint, flickering, and alive from within. Beneath the surface of South America's rivers, in waters that shimmer brown with silt and sun, there swims a creature that looks deceptively harmless. At first glance, the pacu fish seems like a cousin of the piranha, broad bodied, silver scaled, with a mouth that doesn't look especially threatening. But then it opens its jaws, and the illusion shatters. Inside are rows of flat, squared teeth, not jagged like a predator's, but disturbingly familiar. They look human, almost too human, like the fish has borrowed a dentist mold from a person and fitted it into its own mouth. It's not an accident of nature. These teeth are meant for work. Unlike their flesh tearing piranha relatives, paiular nuts, crush plant matter, and occasionally nibble on the odd bit of meat if it drifts their way. Their powerful jaws, combined with those eerily flat molars, make them one of the few fish that can bite with the same grinding motion as a human. And when they do bite, intentionally or not, the results can be startling. Local legends swirl around them. Fishermen tell of pacu caught with entire chunks of fruit in their bellies, pulled from the Amazon basin after heavy rains, when the forest floods and trees drop their bounty straight into the water. Some even say these fish have developed a taste for unusual snacks. In some regions, they've earned a sinister nickname, ball cutters. A rumor, yes, but one rooted in a few isolated incidents where men bathing in rivers suffered injuries that made headlines and kept villagers on edge. And as strange as they are in the wild, it's their appearances far from home that have made headlines across the globe. Pacas have been pulled out of lakes and ponds in places like Denmark, Illinois, and New Jersey, not because they swam there naturally, but because someone somewhere let them go. Often they start as exotic pets, cute when they're small, manageable in aquariums, but then they grow. Some pacas can reach over 3 feet long and weigh as much as a medium sized dog. They outgrow tanks, snap aquarium glass, and become too much for casual owners. And then the solution, flawed and impulsive, is to flush them or release them into nearby waters. That's how they ended up in sewers, in toilets, in suburban ponds where they have no business being. Suddenly, unsuspecting locals are finding fish with flat white teeth staring up from nets or floating under docks, their mouths parted just enough to show that unsettling grin. These appearances have led to wild internet rumors and viral posts, images of pacas with captions warning of man eating fish hiding in neighborhood creeks. Most of it's exaggerated, but the discomfort is real. Because there's something uniquely unsettling about seeing something so close to human in something so not. Our minds expect certain rules in nature. Teeth, especially, are one of those features we associate with identity, with personality. Seeing our own reflected in a fish is like a biological glitch, a trick the brain can't quite process. It raises questions, not just of biology, but of boundaries. Where does the familiar end? Where does the uncanny begin? Despite the myths, Pacus aren't aggressive toward humans by nature. They're browsers, not hunters. They'd rather snack on fallen seeds than flesh. But accidents do happen. Their powerful bite, meant to crush tough nutshells, can do damage if a hand gets too close. Zookeepers and aquarists know this well. Feeding a mature pacu means staying alert, even respectful, not because it's evil, but because nature designed it to do a job very well, and human fingers weren't part of the plan. And as with many of the creatures that appear bizarre or misplaced, the pacu tells a bigger story about ecosystems disrupted, about curiosity and carelessness, about what happens when we take pieces of one world and drop them into another without thinking through the consequences. Pacu, when introduced into foreign rivers or lakes, can outcompete native species. Their size and appetite make them bullies in waters not meant for them. In some places, authorities have had to issue warnings or remove them entirely. But the story doesn't end with ecological caution. There's also something strangely symbolic about the pacu's journey. A fish that looks familiar, acts strange, and turns up where it doesn't belong, almost like a misplaced reflection of ourselves. Nature, once again, offering us a mirror in the most unexpected form. And just as you're trying to process the idea of a fish with a human smile, the world gets darker, quieter, and stranger still. Because in the deepest parts of the ocean, where no light reaches and pressure crushes steel, life has evolved into something far more alien and more beautiful. In the twilight of the ocean's embrace, where the world grows still and time seems to stretch like the endless blue, drifts a creature so small, so delicate, it could almost be missed. No jagged teeth, no haunting stare, no monstrous limbs, just a soft, translucent bell, no bigger than a fingernail. And yet, this tiny being carries a secret that defies everything we think we know about life itself. The immortal jellyfish, or Turritopsis dohrnii, doesn't just survive, it resets. When most creatures age, they move forward toward maturity, toward decline, toward the quiet end that all living things must eventually face. But this jellyfish, when injured, when starving, or when simply growing old, doesn't die. Instead, it pulls off a trick so unbelievable it borders on science fiction. It reverts, like a tree shrinking back into a seed, like a flame curling into a spark. It transforms itself into an earlier version, shedding the weight of age and beginning again. Inside its fragile, gelatinous body, the process starts quietly. Cells begin to shift roles. Muscle cells become nerve cells. Digestive cells morph into skin. This biological time warp is called transdifferentiation, a rare ability where cells lose their identity and become something new. The jellyfish collapses into a tiny cyst, not much more than a cluster of basic building blocks. Then, from this humble form, it starts over as a polyp, the infant stage of a jellyfish's life cycle. The entire organism rolls itself back to childhood. It doesn't age, it recycles. And it can do this again and again. And the implications are staggering. This jellyfish doesn't just delay death, it rewrites it. In theory, unless it's eaten or destroyed by disease, it could go on forever. That's not just unusual, it's a crack in the rulebook of biology, a glitch in life's most fundamental program, because everything else, every tree, bird, whale, or human, grows older with time. Cells break down, DNA weakens, the system slows, but not Turritopsis dohrnii. It doesn't resist time, it simply sidesteps it. There's something quietly unnerving about that. Not because the creature is monstrous or aggressive, but because it shouldn't be possible. Immortality, Even in the tiniest form, whispers of the forbidden, a soft bodied ghost floating through the sea, immune to age, blind to the concept of endings. We expect nature to follow rules: birth, life, death. This jellyfish floats past all of them like a gentle rebel. Scientists have studied it, of course. They've tried to understand the mechanisms, hoping maybe, just maybe, this humble sea creature holds a clue to something bigger, a pathway to slow human aging, a way to regenerate damaged cells. But so far, the jellyfish keeps its secrets close. Its immortal trick remains locked in a mystery that even the sharpest minds haven't cracked. And there's another catch: the jellyfish doesn't do this out of triumph. It's not conquering death with pride or dominance. It's doing it out of weakness, stress, damage. It reverts when it's threatened, like a retreat into a safe form, like curling up into the past. Its immortality isn't strength, it's survival, a quiet kind of resistance that hides rather than fights. There's something haunting in that. Immortality as a defense mechanism. Not bold, not flashy, just quiet repetition in a drifting cycle of rebirth. And yet, despite its ghost like fragility, this jellyfish holds a kind of power no lion or shark could match. It endures. While others rise and fall, it restarts. And in the vast emptiness of the sea, where darkness reigns and pressure crushes all, Turritopsis dohrnii glows faintly with the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the cycle isn't fixed after all. That's the eeriest part. Not the jellyfish itself, but the way it forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. What is aging, really? What is death, if not the failure to renew? And if a creature this simple can step outside the lines, why can't we? Maybe one day we'll unlock its secret, or maybe it's meant to stay adrift, untouchable, reminding us that nature has corners we still don't understand, that life doesn't always follow the script. And as we leave behind this final creature, a silent traveler through the folds of time, we're left with one last thought. In a world full of monsters and marvels, the most unsettling thing isn't what lurks in the shadows, it's what endures in the light. Quiet, small, eternal, in the if this journey through nature's strangest creatures gave you chills, sparked your curiosity, or made you see the world a little differently, then don't let it end here. Tap that like button, share it with someone who dares to explore the bizarre, and subscribe for more unbelievable wonders that hide in plain sight. Because trust me, this is just the beginning.